This is for all you multi-talented, multitasking, multi-everything people out there. Take it away.
Find your glory, write your story, fearless, we will carry you. Time you own it, take your moment, be a fire burning through. Hustling from night until morning, grinding it out, it won't be long. Feel your power, it's your hour, you inspire, you are strong.
Enjoy your Zoa. No applause? You're all fired.
Hey, good morning, America. Good morning, America.
Good morning, America.
Good morning, America.
Money. Are you ready? They are ready. Covering the biggest events in the country right now.
There's a lot going on here this morning.
It's always a good time.
That's what the show's about.
That's good.
Really good.
Very good.
Coming in hot, Jimmy, coming in hot.
It's far from elementary.
Oh.
Good morning, America.
I'm not going to try to strut like Michael or anything.
I have known George a long, long time.
Have you ever gotten him to dance?
Look at that face.
You don't just see it, you feel it.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in too.
I'll be here.
I am here and so happy.
I'm in.
I'm in too.
I'm in.
That tells you something when Snoop Dogg's in. Michael, George, Lara, Ginger.
Prepare for a journey beyond imagination, beyond belief, beyond anything you've experienced before. Universal Epic Universe, a new theme park where you'll step through extraordinary portals to 5 immersive worlds. Prepare for a cosmic voyage of discovery, an isle of fire-breathing excitement, a shadowy world of monsters and mystery, new wonders in the wizarding world, and a new way to play. Plus the splendor of a magnificent resort hotel overlooking the park. It's all new excitement at Universal Orlando Resort. A week's worth of vacation thrills with 4 amazing theme parks, a variety of spectacular themed hotels, and incredible dining and entertainment. It's all at Universal Orlando Resort, where you'll find new adventures every day. Explore the astonishing worlds of Universal Epic Universe at Universal Orlando Resort.
Well, hello to you, and you. Welcome into an early edition of Braylon's Virtual Tour Live. We are live on tour. I know I usually come on at 6 o'clock, but it is jury deliberations for the Diddy trial, and so I'm like, let me go live a little bit earlier to get here with all of you, and let's just talk for a little bit, see what's up, what's going on. They are still in jury deliberations as of right now, but we do have updates, video, articles. You know how we do it. You know how we get down. Higher is waiting. Low is available. But either way, we are live on tour. Let me take down this iconic intro here, rather. You see that virtual tour background. Yes, you do. You hear that virtual tour music. Yes, you do. And then there is, oh, wait a minute. There I am. Welcome in. Glad to have all you here in the building with me. We are live on tour. Yes, indeed, we are. But I cannot wait for that content creator conversation as well. Oh, no. Coco Gauff is eliminated from Wimbledon after losing to an unranked player. Well, Coco Gauff, you still a legend, child. Don't even worry about it. It's all good in the neighborhood. So here we go. Sean Diddy Combs trial live updates. Jury asked for Cassie testimony transcript as they deliberate verdict. Combs faces 5 criminal counts and has denied all allegations against him. Okay, so we are live. What to know about the trial? The 12-person jury has entered its second day of deliberations in the Combs trial. They have already sent the judge 5 notes. Combs faces 5 criminal counts, 1 count of racketeering conspiracy, 2 counts sex trafficking by force, fraud or coercion rather, and 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Combs has ferociously denied the allegations against him. This live briefing may include graphic descriptions of sexual violence. For resources on sexual assault, call the National Sexual Assault telephone line. Sign up for the Diddy on Trial newsletter for key developments and analysis, and listen to the podcast Dateline True Crime Weekly for daily coverage. There 2 new updates right here. Okay. Combs enters court and huddles with his defense attorneys. Combs is back in the courtroom and standing in the huddle with his defense attorneys as they discuss another note from the jury. The prosecution is sitting in their chairs, but the Combs team has formed a horseshoe as members stand around Combs. His head is down and defense attorneys are hugging each other. So, that says a lot. Now listen here, you damn motherfucker. Listen, you black. You black imbecile. Do you not know how fucked we are? These damn notes are asking for the real tea that we couldn't give in the trial. Because if we would have gave that, then the prosecution would have won. Well, listen here, motherfucker. I paid your white privilege ass some money. Okay? So you're going to get me out this shit. That says a lot, those 2 right there. Look, I mean, it looks like an angry face right here. I gotta tell you. And he's like, listen, I know I did it, but like, you still get me out? Oh my God. Okay, here we go. Jury sends its 6th note. Attorneys are filling the courtroom as the jury has sent a note to the court. This is the 6th note from the jury since deliberations began yesterday. What was the incident at the Sussex house? While most people might remember the assault at the Intercontinental Hotel in 2016, sex worker Daniel Phillip testified earlier on in the trial about an incident at the Sussex house hotel years prior. Phillip told the court that he was paid to have sex with Ventura while Combs watched around 2012 or 2013. He testified that after a freak-off at the Sussex house, Ventura went into a bed with Combs while he remained in the living room. He testified that out of nowhere, he heard Ventura yelling out that she was sorry repeatedly. Phillip then said he heard the sounds of someone being slapped or slammed around. So the Sussex house, I think that's in the UK, if I'm not mistaken. Is here the Sussex house right here. I'm guessing that's the JW Marriott right here, right? So, but I think Sussex is literally in the UK, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, in England. That's what I thought. Yep, in England. Yep. I figured that as much because I've heard that before. I think it might be a TV show that I've heard that before or something like that. Okay, I just got 1 new update here. So we are live. Okay, verdicts reached on 4 of the 5 counts. Okay. The jury has told the judge, this just came out like 39, 38, 37. So about 2 minutes ago, verdicts reached on 4 of the 5 counts. The jury has told the judge they have reached a verdict on 4 of the counts, but are unable to reach a consensus on the racketeering charge. The note said they have jurors with unpersuadable views. So that is the latest update. Ladies and gentlemen, breaking news right here on Braylon's Virtual Tour Live. Verdicts reach on 4 of the 5 counts. 4 of the 5 counts. 4 of the 5 counts. They have reached verdicts on. Okay, so that is breaking news. Just happened about 2 minutes ago there. Looks like we might get a verdict today. Let's keep rolling here. As soon as I see a 1, And it's really cool if you're on your desktop, right? And as you're reading, it'll change the tab to give you a number that'll let you know if an update is available. Deliberations had a rocky start yesterday as issues arose between jurors. Deliberations appeared to be off to a rocky start in the sex trafficking and racketeering case against Combs yesterday, just hours after the judge turned the case over to the jury. Combs has spent the last 6 weeks on trial in the Southern District of New York as the government seeks to prove that he was at the helm of a criminal enterprise, using his employees to help commit several crimes. Within about 2 hours of deliberations, however, the jury sent a note to the judge expressing a concern over one of its members. The note to the U.S. District Judge, Arsenian, said the group was worried that juror number 3 does not follow the judge's instructions. No additional details about the cause of concern were provided. So it was juror 25 and now juror 3, right? So there it is there. Y'all couldn't even see it. Lord Jesus, we're live on tour. Hang on. Don't worry, I'll read it again. So here we go. 4 minutes ago, Verge reached on 4 of the 5 counts. 4 of the 5 counts have Verge reached, okay? The jury has told the judge they have reached a verdict on 4 of the counts, but are unable to reach a consensus on the racketeering charge. The note said they have jurors with unpersuadable views. So 4 of the 5 counts, they have reached verdicts on. So this happened 4 minutes ago at 4:37 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Combs enters court and huddles with his defense attorneys. Combs is back at the courtroom and standing in the huddle with his defense attorneys as they discuss. Another note from the jury: the prosecution is sitting in their chairs, but Combs' team has formed a horseshoe as members stand around Combs. His head is down and defense attorneys are hugging each other. So here's the picture here. Child, woo, Lord Jesus. You understand, you black imbecile? I'm not gonna have a career after this shit. Motherfucker, I'm screwed too. No, it's not the same. See, I got white privilege, but my privilege has limits now. It's not like back in the day we could just do anything and get away with shit. You're the first black motherfucker that actually has had a trial, besides OJ. Well, I'm not black, I'm PD. Well, how's that working out for you black bastard? Now, of course, Mark Affiliate doesn't have a white country accent. You saw the thumbnail, you know my voice, and damn it, you know why you're here. Okay, listen. Jury sends its 6th note. Okay, attorneys are filling the courtroom rather, as the jury has sent a note to the court. This is the 6th note from the jury since deliberations began yesterday. What was the incident at the Sex's house? While most people might remember the assault at the Aaron Connell Hotel in 2016, sex worker Daniel Phillip testified early on in the trial about incident at the Sex's house hotel years prior. Phillip told the court that he was paid to have sex with Ventura while Combs watched around 2012 or 2013. He testified that after a freak-off at the Sex's house, Ventura went into a bedroom with Combs while he remained in the living room. He testified that out of nowhere, he heard Ventura yelling out that she was sorry repeatedly. Phillip then said he heard the sounds of someone being slapped and slammed around. Here we go, y'all. Deliberations had a rocky start yesterday as issues arose between jurors. Deliberations appeared to be off to a rocky start in the sex trafficking and racketeering case against Combs yesterday, just hours after the judge turned the case over to the jury. Combs has spent the last 6 weeks on trial in the Southern District of New York as the government seeks to prove that he was at the helm of a criminal enterprise, using his employees to help commit several crimes. Within about 2 hours of deliberations, however, the jury sent a note to the judge expressing concern over one of its members. The note to U.S. District Judge Arsenian said the group was worried that juror number 3 does not know how to follow the judge's instructions. No additional details about the cause of concern were provided. So juror 25 and juror number 25 and juror number 3 both are not following the judge's instructions there. Combs reassures his mother it's going to be all right. Yeah, buddy, I don't know about that, because what was the update? Verge reached on 4 of the 5 counts, but you said that to your mother. Okay, let's roll on. Combs reassures his mother it's going to be all right. Combs sat with his defense team this morning wearing light pants and a light sweater, appearing to be a bit on edge as the day began. He waved to his family and blew kisses to his mother Janice as she sat in the second row. Combs leaned over to speak to her later in the morning after both parties had argued over how to answer a question from the jury. Just relax. It's going to be all right. Combs told her. He added, I like your shirt, your outfit. Both sides argue over testimony excerpts about the Intercontinental Hotel. The prosecution and defense went back and forth over what parts of Ventura's testimony regarding the March 2016 assault she endured from Combs at the Intercontinental Hotel should be sent back to the jury. Combs' defense wanted to include messages between Combs and Ventura leading up to the hotel visit in which they were coordinating a freak-off. Still, prosecutors wanted it limited to the incident at the hotel itself. Both sides went back and forth until the judge suggested offering the jury Ventura's entire testimony transcript. Prosecutor Emily Johnson told the court the prosecution had no problem with this, but defense lawyer Terry Garagos pushed back. Garagos argued that the entire testimony, which is 800 pages long, would be too overwhelming for the jury. Terry Garagos, you the same motherfucking itch that asked Jane about what bag she got versus respecting the fact that she has been sexually abused and been through TV. And that jury has been handling this trial very well. Child, y'all ain't got nothing else to do. In that case, shorten it if that's a problem for you. Oh my God. So basically, Terry Garagos is saying the jury is stupid, that they can't handle 800 pages. Child, I'm flapping my boat right now. How is she a lawyer? Because of her daddy? Not because of her experience. Okay. All right, cool. Oh, Lord. Man, they just give anybody a job nowadays, do they? Okay. All right. Let's move on. Eventually, they agreed to send a portion of Ventura's testimony that will include the text from before and after the hotel assault. Instagram post Ventura made after CNN released video of the hotel, so will also be given to the jury. Sumerian ordered that it be ready for the jury by 1 p.m. Eastern. Court started off with a heated debate about how to respond to the jury's question. The morning started with a heated debate on yesterday's jury question about a specific aspect of drug distribution. Both sides took the notes as critical opportunities to influence the response. A note came in yesterday just before court closed for the day, asking whether an individual is considered a distributor if they gave substances to someone who asked for the drugs. Yeah. I mean, even though Brendan Paul said he wasn't a drug mule, he got drugs to give to Diddy, so he was distributing drugs to Diddy. So I would say yes. I would definitely say yes to that. Prosecutors point to lines on page 37 of the jury charge document, which said that distributing simply means to deliver, to pass over, or hand over something to another person. Combs is not charged with drug distribution specifically, but possession with intent to distribute is considered a predicate crime within his racketeering charge. Defense attorney Mark Anfello argued that the answer didn't go far enough, but U.S. District Judge Arnson ultimately sided with the government on what to send back. I just listened to you, and I have heard what you said, Sumerian said to Anfello. I don't think your concern has any basis. Wait a minute. The judge said, listen, y'all been stupid this whole time. At this point, I don't have to give a fuck what you have to say. Oh, my Lord Jesus. Jury note asked for testimony transcripts. The jury requested transcripts of testimony given by Cassie Ventura and Daniel Phillip, a sex worker who was hired for freak-offs with Combs and Ventura. They asked specifically for Ventura's testimony about the March 2016 Intercontinental Hotel assault, about when she and Combs were at Cannes Film Festival and its aftermath, and about her freak-offs with Phillip. The note also asked what Phillip told the court about a freak off at the Essex hotel. Comey told the judge they reached an agreement on the Phillip testimony in one of the sections regarding the Cannes incident, though there was a dispute over where to cut off the events after the incident. The prosecution added they are working through the testimony on the Intercontinental Hotel. Combs' mother had entered the courtroom, or has entered the courtroom. Janice Combs had just arrived as we await for the jury's latest note to be read aloud. She's been waiting in the 8th floor cafeteria. The jury has sent its 5th note. The jury sent its 5th note around 10:27 a.m. Prosecutors and defense attorneys returned to the courtroom where they all looked at their phones and conferred about the note. Prosecutor Maureen Comey went to the defense table to chat with defense lawyer Terry Garagos. Prosecutors were chatting, taking notes as the defense team huddled near the court artist. Jury deliberating for the second day. Jurors returned to the jury room today for day 2 of deliberations after completing 5.5 hours yesterday. They sent 4 notes to the judge, including a question about drug distribution, which the judge will answer after conferring with attorneys. They went directly to the jury room and began deliberations around 9 a.m. So that's everything up to the minute of the Diddy trial. All right, y'all. 2 new updates. Okay, 2 new updates here. Right here, both sides request that the jury continue deliberating. Attorneys for the prosecution and the defense have told the judge that they would like the jury to continue deliberating on count 1, the racketeering charge. And Fanello told the judge that the jury has been deliberating only a short time and should continue. Really? Really? You, Sir, they have reached verdicts on 4 of the 5 counts. 4 of the 5 counts. 4 of the 5 counts. This is the same dumb fuck, Mark Antonello, that said 1 bottle of baby oil goes a long way when the government found over 200 bottles of baby oil and 1,000 bottles during the raids. What the fuck? Comey also told the court that the prosecution will put together an Allen charge instructions that urge a jury to keep working in order to avoid a hung jury. Samir asked for both sides to send proposed instructions and send it to his chamber so he can take it from there. So that update just came out at 4:43 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 minutes ago. And then this is the latest update here. Lawyers want judge to read Allen charge to jurors. The government, prosecutors, and defense team both say they want the jurors to keep deliberating on the remaining charge. The judge will read jurors an Allen charge, which is also informally called a dynamite charge, telling the jury to keep talking to find a way to agree to a verdict. So it looks like we're on the way to a verdict here while we are live on tour. Yeah. So right here, the term Allen charge is a generic name for a class of supplemental jury instructions when jurors are apparently deadlocked. The name derives from the first Supreme Court approval of such an instruction in Allen versus United States. In their mildest form, these instructions carry reminders of the importance of securing a verdict, asking jurors to reconsider potentially unreasonable positions. In their stronger forms, these charges have been referred to as dynamite charges because their ability to blast a verdict out of a deadlocked jury. So there it is there. So any update, okay, that I see here from NBC News, I will read to y'all. Okay, so we do have more Braylon's Virtual Tour Live coming up right from the space right here, right now. Let's get some dynamic video in here from Eyewitness News ABC 7. Here we go. It looks like we might have a verdict today, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go.
All eyes this morning still fixed on federal court in Lower Manhattan, where jurors are back deliberating the sex crimes and racketeering case of Sean Combs.
All right, so 5.5 hours of deliberation so far, and already there have been a handful of notes from the jury back to the judge, including one asking for clarity about the drug allegations that underpin and are really only important if they go for the racketeering charge.
Yeah, that's important to note. The juror form, the verdict form that jurors have instructions on, it tells them to consider the drug offenses if and only if they find Combs guilty of, as you mentioned, that racketeering conspiracy. And of course, we don't know what's going on in that jury room right now. It's hard to know. In the courtroom, reporters tell us that they looked at Combs and he looked stricken when he read that note. Whatever.
So, right. So we're just telling you the order of things given by the judge. Now, for now, though, we wait. Eyewitness News reporter Phil Tate outside of the court with the latest. Phil, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. For now, we wait. Day 2 of jury deliberations are now underway, and that's after the judge clarified for the jury panel regarding the drug allegations that was tied to that racketeering.
They need to level those audio levels out.
The first full day of deliberation is now underway.
They need to level those audio levels out before he got on live, because you heard more of the background noise than him. So that's why they went to video.
A rocky start for jurors who send conflicting messages on where things stand. Jurors must fill out this form and deliver it to the judge once there's a verdict. Almost immediately, though, deliberations were interrupted. After about an hour, jurors sent a note that said they are concerned one of them cannot follow your honor's instructions. That juror is a 51-year-old Manhattan scientist. The note did not say what led the other jurors to have concerns, and the judge sent back his own note that reminded jurors they have a duty to deliberate and an obligation to follow my instructions on the law. Later, the jury sent another note asking the judge about the drug allegations that support the racketeering conspiracy charge. When Combs read the note, he looked stunned. The verdict form says jurors should consider the predicate crimes if and only if they decide Combs is guilty of racketeering conspiracy. The jury saw multiple photos of drugs, and prosecutors told them Combs and his associates had committed hundreds of acts of drug distribution. The defense said the evidence was exaggerated, and prosecutors charged personal use drugs and threesomes as racketeering.
Now, inside of the courtroom, there was a short exchange between Combs and his mother where he told her it's going to be all right. But over the past 7 weeks, the prosecution has presented 34 witnesses, and Combs himself did not testify at this trial. Now, important to note, there are still so many questions regarding what this verdict will be. You can take a charge in terms of the sex trafficking, as there's a minimum mandatory of 1 count, which is equal to 15 years behind bars. We are live outside of the federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan. I'm Phil Tate, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Phil, thank you for your coverage there in Lower Manhattan. Joining us now here on set, ABC legal expert Shauna Lloyd. Thank you so much for being here, first and foremost.
Absolutely.
Let's get right into it. So Diddy admitted to drug use, but the notes on the drug abuse appear to have shaken him a bit. It looked like reporters said he was concerned.
Correct. Because when we look at the verdict form, we know that they are not supposed to look at the subsequent crimes unless they've already found him guilty of the RICO. Oh. So if you're looking at the order of the form, this is at the end, which means they've already found that. Now, the counter argument to that, though, is that if we have a majority that feels as though there is no...
Here. Breaking news here. Jury says it has reached a partial verdict. They have reached a partial verdict, ladies and gentlemen. They have reached a partial verdict. Here, let's go to. I can't rewind it here, so thankfully we are able to rewind it with ABC News here on YouTube. So here we go.
Of Cassie, as well as David Phillips, one of the escorts in various parts of this case, parts that the government told the jurors to focus on. And now we have this note saying there's a partial verdict, saying that they have an unpersuadable opinion between them when it comes to that first count of racketeering conspiracy, but they have a verdict as it applies to the other 4 counts. Just as a reminder, that is 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. Rashawn Combs faces 15 years to life for each one of those, and then transportation to engage in prostitution. And there's an either or for those 2 charges, where you could be talking about transporting either Jane or Cassie or any of the 25 plus male escorts that were allegedly brought across state lines. Each one of those counts carry up to 10 years in prison.
Well, and Brian, I mean, as a criminal defense attorney, this is day 2 of deliberations, and you get a verdict. We certainly expected one before the July 4th holiday, but I'm curious, if you were Diddy's defense team right now, how are you feeling?
A little happy. I mean, beating the top count is great, but the issue here is that with the sex trafficking charges, they have just as much of a penalty as it does in that RICO conspiracy, the potential of life in prison. I'm a little worried. I think especially of that Cassie charge. If he goes down on the charge against Cassie, that is a lot of time for a 54-year-old to be spending in prison. A minimum of 15 years potentially of life. But I think you're also optimistic and hopeful that verdict doesn't necessarily mean conviction. Verdict simply means they've come to a decision. with the RICO conspiracy. Right now, they're trying to figure out, do we simply stop them and kind of cut our losses and just keep that as a mistrial or a hung jury as to that count? Or do we give what's called an Allen charge, where the judge will instruct them to continue deliberating? Or looking at the time, it's 4:47, do they say, Judge, you know what? Maybe let them sleep on it. Maybe let them come back. Maybe they'll change their mind about some of the verdicts in a positive way for either side, defense or the government. But at that point, you're really just rolling the dice and just hoping for the best.
Okay, I'm gonna pause it there for a minute because I want to bring this to you all right here. One new update here, 4:58 p.m. from NBC News. Here are the 4 elements of the racketeering charge the jury must consider. The judge informed the jury yesterday that in order to prove Combs violated the RICO Act, there are 4 elements to consider. Sumerian instructed the jury that it must find that there was an agreement, whether spoken or unspoken, by at least 2 people to participate in a criminal enterprise. They must conclude that Combs has also been a willful member of the enterprise and knowingly committed 2 predicate crimes. That's all they need to convict him on the RICO Act, the RICO charge, just 2 predicate crimes as a part of the criminal conspiracy. Finally, racketeering activities must have affected interstate or foreign commerce to meet the racketeering charge threshold. So back to Brian Bookmeyer from ABC News. Here we go.
In that case, Brian, in your expertise, I mean, would we actually hear what the partial verdict is before that RICO charge is essentially determined?
Yeah, so there is a possibility that you would hear a polling of the jury where either side, typically the prosecutor or the government, will ask to poll the jury to say, is this your true and final verdict, or some language along that sense. And they'll do it for all of the counts. They'll do it to make sure that if Sean Combs is convicted of any of the charges, that all 12 of them agree to that. Or if he's found not guilty of a charge, that all 12 of them have that as well. And it's likely that they will also do that for that RICO conspiracy. And you'll hear something along the lines of 10-2 to convict, or 6-6, or whatever the number may be. But I think that one side or the other will likely poll the jury to see what the numbers are.
And obviously, this is something that is developing right now. We just got a new note from our chief investigative correspondent, Eric Tursky, who's there inside that court. He said the judge will not take a partial verdict. He says that once the lawyers work out the language, the judge will call the jurors into the courtroom and instruct them to keep deliberating. Both sides asked the judge to do this. The judge agreed. No verdict is being read as of now. And again, this is going to continue to develop, so bear with us here. But Brian,
as y'all just heard, the judge is not here for a partial verdict. He wants a full-fledged, undeniable, unequivocal, beyond unacceptable verdict of guilty or not guilty. So let's keep going here as we are live on tour.
You kind of ran down the 5 counts that Diddy faces right now, and so looking at the 6 weeks of testimony that we had here, the prosecution really trying to really kind of swing for the fences with this RICO count. Why do you feel like there's been a little bit of a holdup specifically on that particular charge?
So there are 2 parts of the RICO conspiracy that have to be considered. One, do you believe this to be a criminal enterprise? And at first, I thought that might have been a foregone conclusion. And the reason why I say that is because they've gone to the second aspect of evaluating the predicate acts. And when they asked for that definition of drug distribution, that to me made me think that everyone thought that this was a RICO conspiracy and they were moving on. But now hearing this note that they're hung, I have to imagine, and I could be wrong, I've been wrong in the past and I'll be wrong in the future, but I have to imagine it's a question of whether or not it's a RICO conspiracy, because there are so many, I think there are about 8 to 10 predicate acts that so long as they're unanimous in their belief that one of these predicate acts happened and they get 2 of them, that's halfway to RICO. There are so many of them, the arson, the sex trafficking, the prostitution, the transportation to engage in prostitution, the bribery, the obstruction of government. I would imagine that 2 could be found amongst this 12, but the linchpin, the centerpiece of whether or not there's a racketeering conspiracy or this is just a business that Sean Combs operates, I would think that would be the sticking point that some people are just gonna say, you know what? I don't believe it. and they're really digging in their heels.
Okay, so we're going to pause it there for just a quick minute and get back to this beautiful sister right here, Shauna Lloyd, who is the managing partner at the Cochran firm, to give a little more context to where we are right now, right from the space right here, right now. Welcome in, everybody. We are live on tour, jury deliberations for the Sean D. Combs trial. In case you're wondering what's going on, there has been a partial verdict reached. Verdicts are reached on 4 of the 5 counts. The jury has told the judge it has received a verdict on 4 counts, but is unable to reach a consensus on the racketeering charge. The note says there are jurors with unpersuadable views. We just learned from ABC News just minutes ago that the judge is not accepting that partial verdict. He wants a full-fledged, unequivocal, undeniable, and unacceptable out loud verdict. No gray, black or white verdict there. So let's get back to this context here.
On the drug abuse appeared to have shaken him a bit. It looked like reporters said he was concerned.
Correct. Because when we look at the verdict form, we know that they are not supposed to look at the subsequent crimes unless they've already found him guilty of the RICO. So if you're looking at the order of the form, this is at the end, which means they've already found that. Now, the counter argument to that, though, is that if we have a majority that feels as though there is no RICO, the minority might be trying to prove their point, and that is where the question came out of. So we can't be so quick to look at these jury questions and know, because it can be looked at either way.
It's not always if then,
correct?
Right? And they might not be going in order. And already we know that the jurors don't seem to be on the same page. What if the judge dismisses a juror?
So that's always a delicate balance, because we have to remember that dismissing a juror is something that's going to be ripe for appeal. So what we'll typically see happen is the judge will inquire of that juror. He's not going to inquire about deliberations, where they stand. What he'll find out is, what is it that this juror is unable to do? What is it that they can't do? Can they not follow the instructions? Are they not willing? Are they bringing emotion into it? Are they bringing outside resources? Once he's made that inquiry and has it on the record, if he dismisses the jury, then the next alternate will come in. And unfortunately, they kind of start deliberations again, because this new alternate that would be brought in needs to be a part of the discussion as well.
So even though alternate jurors are in the pool and they hear all the testimony, they're not necessarily in the room with the discussions. I didn't know that until you just said it. So and there was one juror that was in question. So if they have to pull that juror out, put another in, and then they go through the whole conversations again, does that give the Combs group a chance at like an appeal?
Typically, once the judge has made that solid record as to what is the reason he's dismissing it, if it's something that is required on those jury instruction forms, remember, there are certain things jurors must do. They cannot consider the fact that he didn't testify. They must assume he's innocent until proven guilty. They cannot bring outside resources. If they are not doing one of those things, it is absolutely imperative that the judge remove them, because that's what's required of a juror.
It was interesting. So throughout this trial, Diddy's defense, they didn't bring up their own witnesses. They didn't have, Mr. Combs take the stand, anything like that. They seem to admit, hey, he used drugs in the past. He's not the best human. He's had physical, domestic issues, but that's not what this is about. They seem to be confident about the racketeering and sex trafficking, specifically those charges, not about his character.
Absolutely. They were very confident going in, which is why they didn't bring any witnesses. We believe that they saw reasonable doubt, and what they did was really try to reinforce that in their closing, as opposed to bringing additional information into the case. Because anytime you bring additional witnesses, remember, that's additional cross-examination.
Sure.
They may actually muddy the waters for you if you feel as though the prosecution has enough holes that they're already dealing with.
Wow.
Do you see a verdict happening this week before the holiday? Or is there any way to tell? And if you have an opinion on that, why?
I'll tell you. So whenever we look at a holiday, right, we know that the court is closed on Thursday and Friday. Typically, jurors that have been in a trial this long, they want to get out. So they're going to try to move as efficiently as possible. I believe that is why that note came out so quickly about that juror, because they're like, listen, we're all going to get on the same page and we're going to execute and we're going to be done with it.
Is that good for the defense? The longer it goes, typically you hear if it wraps up quicker, not a good look. Is it better, I guess, for the defense the longer it goes?
Typically we find so, but I will tell you, if this jury goes and we don't have a verdict verdict by Wednesday, I smell a hung jury, because what they're probably going to say to one another is, let's take the long weekend, go be with our friends and family, and come back new and start again.
Wow.
Oh, boy.
Wow. Oh.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Very good. Shauna
Yes.
Lloyd, thank you so much for being with us. Very
Great to be
good.
here.
Good information. Stay with Eyewitness News throughout the deliberations as long as they go. We're going to break into programming, of course, as soon as we know that a verdict has been reached. You can also sign up for breaking news push alerts so that you know first by downloading the ABC7 NY app.
You can trust we have you.
I think he was about to say, you can trust we have you covered. So yes, indeed there. So no updates as of yet from NBC News right now. Anything that comes in, I will let you guys know about. Here is more dynamic video from Good Morning America here. Let's add this to the timeline here. Here we go.
We got new details from inside the jury room in the Sean Diddy Combs case. Jurors telling the judge they hit a snag just 1 hour into deliberations. Chief Investigative Correspondent Aaron Katersky is there at the courthouse for us with more. Good morning, Aaron.
And good morning to you, Robin. The jury is going to return here a short time from now to resume deliberations after what seemed like a rough start. This morning, the first full day of deliberations in the trial of Sean Combs, who prayed with his twin daughters, sons, and mother in the courtroom, while the jury of 8 men and 4 women ages 30 to 74 went to decide whether he's guilty of racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Jurors must fill out this form and deliver it to the judge once there's a verdict. Almost immediately, though, deliberations were interrupted. After about an hour, jurors sent a note that said they're concerned one of them cannot follow Your Honor's instructions. That juror is a 51-year-old Manhattan scientist with a doctorate in molecular biology. The note did not say what led the other jurors to have concerns, and the judge sent back his own note that reminded jurors they have a duty to deliberate and an obligation to follow my instructions on the law. Later, the jury sent another note asking the judge about the drug allegations that support the racketeering conspiracy charge. When Combs read the note, he looked stricken. The verdict form says jurors should consider the drug offenses if and only if they decide Combs is guilty of racketeering conspiracy. The jury saw multiple photos of drugs seized from Combs. Several assistants testified they bought drugs for him. The defense said the drugs were only for Combs's personal use. There's no way to know where deliberations stand. There have been about 5.5 hours so far, and each day, Robin, the judge said he would let the jury decide how late to stay. Robin.
All right, Aaron, our thanks to you. We're going to bring in ABC News live contributor Shauna Lloyd. So what do you make of this issue with the juror?
So the issue with the juror, we have to remember, is this. The question was very specific, that he's not following the judge's instructions. The judge only asked them to do a certain amount of things. Presumption of innocence. You can't hold the fact that he didn't testify against him. You can't bring outside sources, and you can't make decisions based on race, religion. So there is something about one of those few things that the judge is asking that this juror was not complying with. So we know that the judge did send him back, and it seems as though he's now deliberating with the other jurors.
Does it raise, though, a question about possible appeals?
Absolutely, because let's remember, the judge has a very heavy balancing act. The judge has to make sure that he attempts to not influence the deliberation, but ensure that the juror is following instructions. Then, if he finds that he's not, he's going to have to remove him and put in an alternate juror.
So at this point, what happens and what does it mean for the jury if the judge decides to dismiss a juror?
If the judge decides to dismiss the jury, it means that the alternate will be brought back in. We have to remember they did see the entire trial, so they are up to speed. But what it means is deliberations almost reset, because this juror has to be brought into all the discussions that the group has been having for this last day and a half or half a day.
So it could delay things.
It could delay things.
And it's already been such a long trial.
Exactly.
All right, Shauna Lloyd, the twists and turns never end. Thank you so much for being here.
A pleasure.
All right. Hey. Thank you, GMA, so much there. By the way, get you some Wingstop as we are in the middle of jury watch here. So let's get some more dynamic video in here from Eyewitness News ABC 7. Here we go.
Of jury deliberations in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. Late this morning, jurors sent a note to the judge requesting readback of some testimony.
Specifically, they wanted to review the transcripts of Cassie Ventura's testimony about that hotel incident when Combs was caught on security camera attacking her.
So what does this mean? We will be joined by an ABC News legal analyst in just a moment, but we do want to begin with Eyewitness News reporter Kimberly Richardson. She is live at the courthouse in Lower Manhattan. Kimberly.
Well, Lauren and Tanya, yes, jurors have been deliberating for roughly 8.5 hours at this point. And yes, a short time ago, a new note, the fifth note, the jury asking the judge for transcripts from two witnesses, as you mentioned, Cassie Ventura and a male escort. Remember, the prosecution put up 34 witnesses, the defense none. But none of this should come as a surprise because the charges in this case are very dense. Sean Combs facing 5 counts. Early this morning, first thing this morning, his legal team arrived here at the federal court in Lower Manhattan, as did Janice Combs. She waved to the crowd. Day 2 of deliberations started with the judge clarifying a note sent yesterday. Jurors asked about the drug allegations that support racketeering conspiracy. That charge alone has 8 predicate acts tied to it, including kidnapping, arson, and drug distribution. The verdict form says jurors should consider the predicate crimes if and only if they find Combs is guilty of racketeering. During testimony, the jury saw pictures of drugs. Prosecutors maintain Combs and his associates committed hundreds of acts of drug distribution. The judge simply referred jurors back to the section of their legal instructions that spells out what the word distribution means. He pointed out it doesn't require a sale. In the end, the judge decided to leave the instructions as is, telling the defense changing them at this point would only further confuse the jury. We're also learning more about the jury foreperson. He is 31 years old. He's an investment analyst who lives in Manhattan. He told the judge during jury selection he did see the video of Combs dragging and hitting Ventura inside an LA hotel in 2016, but he vowed to decide the case solely on the evidence at trial and that he could, quote, be a blank slate. As for that fifth note, yes, it asks, the jurors are asking for transcripts from several things. Ventura's incident when she was in that LA hotel with Combs, where we saw him beating and dragging her. Also, her trip with Combs to the Cannes Film Festival. Also, an incident with a male escort. The test.
Let me pause for all of you. Right now, right from the space right here, right now, 1 minute ago, 5:16 p.m., 5:16 p.m., the jury is being brought back in. Sumerian is bringing back the jury into court after taking input from both the prosecution and defense on what to tell jurors in response to their announcement that they are deadlocked on a single count. I'm going to say this sentence 2 more times for you all. Sumerian is bringing the jury back into court after taking input from both the prosecution and the defense on what to tell jurors in response to their announcement that they are deadlocked on a single count. Sumerian is bringing the jury back into court after taking input from both the prosecution and defense on what to tell jurors in response to their announcement that they are deadlocked on a single count. Prosecution's suggestion is something less than a formal Allen charge. Instead, a response urging the jury to continue with deliberations. The judge seemed to favor that proposal. There's also discussion on logistics for what happens if jurors don't have a decision by Thursday, as the court is closed for Friday for the 4th of July. Now, I do believe in one of the dynamic videos that we watched here that the judge does have the power to open up the courtroom for the 4th of July. Could be wrong on that. Don't quote me, but I do believe that is the case. With that update being said, back to our video here from Eyewitness News ABC 7. Here we go.
Testimony from him. Jurors are also asking for those transcripts. For now, we're live in Lower Manhattan. Kimberly Richardson, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Kimberly, thanks so much. We want to get into some more details now. We'll bring in a legal expert on today's juror's note. And with us on the set is ABC News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer. Brian, thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Brian, I'm curious about this last note, right? Asking for Cassie's testimony regarding that event at the hotel. which is an event where you could clearly see that she was being coerced into something, right? So what does it tell you that the jury wanted some clarification on that testimony?
So they want the details, right? So let's backtrack of just a little as well. They asked for drug distribution yesterday, and the suggestion there is, according to the verdict sheet, if they're following that sheet, they don't get to the predicate acts like drug distribution until they believe that there's a racketeering conspiracy. So the assumption might be that they're already past count one. And if we're talking about what happened at the Intercontinental Hotel, or even at the Essex Hotel or the film festival, the suggestion to me at least is now we're talking about sex trafficking, which is one of the predicate acts for the RICO conspiracy, but it also is one of the standalone charges as well. And so I think what they're doing is they're looking to see who was right. Because if you look to the defense, they're saying that this wasn't sex trafficking, that Sean Combs was there to try to get his cell phone back, and this is domestic violence. The government is saying that she was being forced to get back into that room where there was a freak off. And so I think they're looking at the details, looking at the transcripts to see what do they believe, are their notes sufficient enough, or do they need to look at more?
Interesting.
And so they'll hear some of that readback, but we know that this is their fifth note. And we know initially there was some concern by the jurors that one juror was not following the judge's instructions. It seems they've moved past that. So what's your take on how they're moving forward?
So I think at first it's a matter of here are the rules, here are the guidelines, this is what we have to do. And it appeared like someone wasn't following one of those rules. The next they move to the drug distribution. As I said earlier, you typically don't get there unless you believe there's a racketeering conspiracy. And if you even look at the verdict sheet, drug distribution is something like the 8th or 9th predicate act. After arson, after the bribery charges and all the rest. Now we're talking about, was Cassie trafficked or not? Those are counts 2 and 4, right? Maybe at some point in time we might get a question about Jane, maybe we won't. But it looks like they're moving down this verdict sheet pretty quickly. And I think you can anticipate that they're thinking, we don't want to be here for the July 4th weekend. We want to get out of here sooner than later.
This jury does seem particularly note happy, right? If they have a question, they seem to be quick with those notes. Do you think we're going to see some more today?
I think there's a possibility. Yeah. Absolutely. I think whether it be for more description of what's in the transcripts or more guidelines as to what the crimes could be or the association with it. I don't think transportation to engage in prostitution is a very difficult one. Did you move someone across state lines for the purposes of commercial sex? Those ones may be easier to resolve. I think if anything, they're going to have to really dig deep into the sex trafficking. And then from there, we may have a verdict.
All right.
Brian, thank you for your insights. It's interesting. We'll hear what the readback exactly is and how the jurors move forward today. Day 2 of deliberations.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. And of course, we'll be continuing to follow this case. You can follow our coverage at abc7ny.com.
There you go with that there. Want to show y'all this here from Law and Crime here. Oh, wait a minute. Before that, hang on. New update. Judge tells jurors to keep deliberating, adding they should not hesitate to change their opinions. This just came out 2 minutes ago at 5:20 p.m. right here on NBC News website. Sumerian asked the jury to continue on with discussions to come to a consensus on the outstanding charge. He urged the jurors to remember his instructions and added that they should not hesitate to change their opinion when convinced. Sumerian advised them that they must weigh their option dispassionately. They were told to return rather to the jury room, and if they were done for the day, they would be brought back in for a dismissal. So it looks like it might be a day 3 potentially happening. With that being said, let's go to Law and Crime with Jesse and Elizabeth, or also known as Queen Elizabeth. Let's do it. Here we go.
Milner, Law and Crime's in-court reporter with us. We got her. We got Queen Elizabeth. Elizabeth Milner, Law and Crime's in-court reporter with us. Everybody's been waiting. All the questions are flowing in. Elizabeth, great to see you as we continue deliberations in the Sean Diddy Combs criminal trial. Let's get right into it. This is from Corey Boone. I heard it was pandemonium on Friday, Elizabeth, when the family was leaving. Are there new rules on how the media public should conduct themselves during the verdict?
Oh, well, obviously we were all kind of told not to have any
hang on.
Kind of, as far as like applause or as far as just an overtly emotional reaction.
Y'all, this is just Jonda. She was on with myself and hang on, child. Okay, hang on. Let me drop the link here. Because I want to get this right. Okay, listen, we're live on tour. Okay, you gotta get this right. Let me see here. Let me go back. go back, because I want to make sure that I introduce Jonda right, because she was on with me for Remixing Politics and Culture with Pam, with myself, Pamela, and I want to make sure I get the other woman's name right here. Let me see. Okay, I know it wasn't that long ago when I did it. I know I did over 1,000 tours, but y'all give me a moment. Give me a moment. Okay, I'm trying to find it. Jesus Christ. Oh yes. Culture Talk with myself, Jonda, and Latrice Davis here. So let me bring in Jonda. Good evening. Well, good afternoon to you. How are you, my friend? It's good to see you.
How are you, my friend? It's good to see you as
I'm doing
well.
good. I'm doing good.
You know, I'm sorry I'm not on.
Oh, child, you're fine. You're fine. I try to give. This is my rule, right? Because I'm an old school broadcaster, even though I'm not in a nice studio like Jesse here from Law and Crime. I try to give the audience a full hour of camera time. That's just an old school broadcaster rule that I follow.
Yes. Oh, I believe it. I like to be on camera too. I just feel like it's more, personal. But I hadn't anticipated this jumping off right now. And when I saw my boy Braylon on, I said, "Oh, gotta get in them comments."
Well, thank you very much for being here. Let me read your comments just to catch us up here. I think based on the counts, they may have found him guilty on some or all the counts 2 through 5. If they found him not guilty of those standalone charges, they likely would not find him guilty of the RICO. So I do want to say this for those of you who don't know, welcome in. This is my good friend Jonda here. We were on Remixing Politics and Culture with Pam and Latrice Davis as well. So for those of you who don't know, there is a partial verdict. I just want to say that real quick. There's a partial verdict right here from NBCnews.com. The jury has told the judge it has reached a verdict on 4 of the 5 counts, but is unable to reach a consensus on the racketeering charge. The note said there are jurors with unpersuadable views. So this show started off as jury deliberations, and I had to switch the title to jury to verdict watch because it looks like we might be getting a verdict today. So where are you right now, my friend? How are you feeling about all the about everything really going on right now?
Well, it's wild. It is wild. This whole situation I've been following closely. I did not do daily. I didn't go on the air daily as I originally intended, but absolutely followed very closely. And I got to tell you, I am very surprised that they came back this fast. And I think that could, I don't think that it's one of those things that just because they came back within a day, it's fully predictable. I know that, as you know, because you're a trial watcher, that whenever there is a big trial, there's always the debate. And I'm sure you've seen it with everybody about, well, if they come back fast, it means this. If they come back, slow, it means that. I think that this is one of those in-between kind of areas in terms of that fast or slow. Now, a lot of times, and again, there's different schools of thought on this. If in this case, so just focusing on this case.
Correct.
In this particular case, I think that a fast verdict, and when I say fast, I mean within the first few hours, 4 or 5 hours, then it definitely would have signaled a not guilty verdict, because the jury instructions and all of those things were so terribly complicated that it would have taken them several hours to just go over that information on their own, at least for jurors who are actually taking it seriously. For them to go through that information on their own and then start doing their straw votes, which jurors tend to do. And so I think that if the verdict had come in within that first few hours, that would have been good news for the defense. And again, there's no exact science, but since they have been out for the better part of, I guess, a day. Yesterday, they probably deliberated from more or less after lunch through court closing for the day. Do you remember what time they shut down for the day yesterday?
I think they shut down maybe around 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, maybe somewhere around that time.
They haven't been consistent. Initially, initially I know because there was an issue with a juror and needing to get home or something. There were several 3 o'clock days, but it seemed like as they came closer to the end, probably because the judge wanted this mess over with, they did start to go to 5 o'clock.
Yes.
So if they went to 5 o'clock, then yesterday, I would say, once you factor in lunch, they probably went around 4 hours.
Yeah.
And then today, of course, they came in first thing in the morning. There were a few questions they sent back and forth, which always kind of causes a little bit of a delay, but that doesn't mean that they're not talking. They just will stop talking about whatever they have a question about and go on to something else. But all told, these verdicts, if you account for breaks, lunch, all that kind of stuff, they probably, I would say altogether, maybe about 7 hours.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
About 7 hours. And so when you factor that piece in, I would posit that there is enough time for a nice middle ground there. Yes, that's a short amount of time for them to figure out the RICO piece, because that those instructions were pretty complicated on that. But on the standalone charges, that's enough time for them to have come to a verdict, and it's a verdict that could have gone either way. In terms of the amount of time, I have my own opinions about what the verdict should be, and of course, we can get into that in a minute.
Absolutely.
But as far as this jury, going back to the point that I made in your comments, I think that if they are stuck on the RICO, then that is not a good sign, in my opinion. That's not a good sign for the defense. Now, it doesn't mean that they convicted him of charges 2, 3, 4, and 5, but to me, that would signal that they found him guilty of at least one or more of them, because if they gave him a clean sweep of not guilty on those, then that would signal to me that they wouldn't even bother debating about the RICO and find him not guilty. Now, that being said, the predicate offenses for the RICO are not necessarily those 4 standalone charges. We know that you've been doing a great job of breaking that down over the past several weeks. Those predicate offenses are a whole bunch of other stuff. Yes, it's the sex trafficking and all of that, but it is also the allegations of bribery and kidnapping and all of those other things. Even still, I still posit that if they are willing to find him not guilty of the sex trafficking and the standalone charges, especially given that they kind of have the evidence to find him guilty of them, whether they like it or not, that they would find him not guilty of the RICO as well, because that would signal to me that they're like, you know what, we're just not going to find him guilty of anything. I just can't see them going on a RICO journey, as complicated as the road to RICO has been in this case, and find him not guilty of the charges that are right there in their face. The sex trafficking charge is easy, whether people like it or not. I mean, whether people like it or not, and I was actually talking with my son about this yesterday. I understand people's discomfort with the sex trafficking, because it sounds so stupid. To the layperson, totally understand why it sounds stupid. You have individuals who, now, yes, we do know that there are some allegations of some coercion and stuff, but a lot of the information they put on regarding sex trafficking was fully functioning adults, drugged or who were may or may not have been doing drugs, who willingly contracted with them in some way, and then they just happen to cross straight state lines in at various points. And so when the average layperson looks at that, it's like, okay, I don't care what the law says. I don't want to find somebody guilty of something like that because everybody was good with it.
Right.
And so, but as I was explaining to my son, I feel you on that. That's what makes a prosecutor's job in a situation like this very hard. But sometimes a defense attorney like myself's job very easy, because jury nullification is like a gift in a case like this, because a jury will go, Judge, you can read that jury instruction to me until I'm blue in the face. I am just not going to do it when fully functioning adults agree to go across state lines. But go ahead.
No, go right ahead. And y'all, for those of you who are wondering who this is the beautiful Just Jonda. I was on Remixing Politics and Culture with Pam and Latrice Davis, and we were talking about the Diddy trial. Then we are in the middle of jury watch, or Verge watch rather, and this note just came in from NBC News that I'm going to add.
Yes, please, because I can't see it because I'm trying not to have feedback on the screen.
Oh no, you're good. You're good, beautiful. You're absolutely good. I will say this update, then add to Jonda's commentary. Jurors dismissed for the day as judge urges them to keep an open mind. So this happened 9 minutes ago at 5:25 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Minutes after being told to return to the jury room, the group sent a note to the judge alerting them that it was done for the day. So basically, a note was given to the judge, letting them know that they, Judge, we need time to breathe, which has been said by many experts. And we're going to get to that in just a minute here. The jurors returned to the courtroom briefly to be formally dismissed for the day. Sumerian reminded them to keep an open mind as they continue deliberations tomorrow and thank them for all their hard work. And to your articulate points, I think, and when we were on Remixing Politics and Culture with Pam, I think the panel was really good for the fact of you came in as the attorney. Latrice came in as a community advocate. She has had a very long and deep history in being of the community, and then me with the media perspective. And I think coming from the naked eye, along with my media hat on, I think the main reason why this is very difficult is because once this verdict is reached, from a cultural standpoint, as you so articulately said during that live that we were on together, the aftermath is going to be the real palpable path for the public. Because the palpable path for the court of law is going to end when the verdict happens. And to that point, when you think about all those charges of, prostitution and, commerce, right? There's a content creator named Melanie King that she brought up the fact that the prosecution said that baby oil was taken across state lines. And she was like, that sounds weird. But then she said, until you hear that it was used for an illegal act. And I think that's the crux of it all for the jury. Like I said, I'm not a lawyer, y'all. I'm just a social commentary. I'm giving you this from the media angle here and the social commentary side of it. John is giving it from the legal side. But I think that's probably the crux for the jury is it's a guilty by association. But just because it's guilty by association, does that mean we believe that the association is strong enough by itself with or without the parts that lead to the association? I think that's where the jury is right now, is trying to figure out.
What do you mean by that's an interesting point. What do you mean by guilty by association? You mean everybody around it or Diddy himself? Because Diddy is clearly viewed. I don't think that anybody is dismissing Diddy as the Darth Vader. He is literally the driving force behind the Death Star and all of this. So I guess the question is, and now as I noodle what you said, I think you catch me if I'm misunderstanding, that the when you say guilty by association, you're talking about, because you and I love the social commentary thing as well. That's why I love your show so much. It's the guilty by association. Is it, if he's found guilty, how does that impact everyone else? Because this thing has tentacles.
Yes, it does.
And remember, there are several, it gets lost a lot in this. There are several sealed indictments in all of this. Now, we know that there were indictments that were unsealed, and those people clearly made deals. One of them being, gosh, you're going to have to help me out. Was it Brandon, the young man who was one of the
Brandon
second
Paul, who said he wasn't a drug mule. Yes. He got it.
There's no doubt in my mind that if there wasn't an indictment, there was a threat of an indictment, because his involvement was way too deep. I mean, hell, he was arrested with drugs in hand.
Correct.
Drugs and money in hand. Who, by the way, best witness, like once they were done with Cassie and of course dealt with the expert, I think the expert was important, because you got to put those things into perspective again, especially from a social scientist perspective. The expert is so important, especially because we are living in a different age now where everything is out into the ether. Which makes experts even more important, because everybody and their mama, especially, and no shade to people like me or you, but everybody and their mama, especially those with a microphone, thinks that they are a social scientist, a therapist, a psychologist, an expert at all topics. Doctors,
it's really odd, because when this trial first started, I'm like, y'all, let me tell you something. Go to people who do this. Go to Just Jonda. Go to Pam Esquire. Go to the lead attorney. Go to people who do this. I am giving this to you from the cultural, social point of view, and I have that mindset from when Don Lemon had CNN Tonight, because after the Democrat commentators, after the Republican commentators, the conservative commentators did what they did, the social commentators stayed on for the whole show. And I recognized, okay, so while they are temporary stars, I can be a permanent legend. Okay, let me see how I can bring
if you're somebody like me who does both, all the better.
Absolutely. More checks and more time to collect the checks. To that point, what I mean by the guilty by association is all of the parts of the tentacles that make the octopus. So, how does baby oil relate to an illegal act when baby oil is not illegal? How do the circumstances of the hotel incident relate to this charge? So basically, the circumstances around all these acts, how do they determine if they want to check a yes or a no? So that's what I mean by the different parts of the association that lead to the yes or the no for each act. If that
and I
makes sense.
love that you brought that up, because again, that is what is so dangerous about the time that we live in right now. It's all fun and games for me to say the thing about, everybody thinks they're this and that and whatever. But as you and I both know, that is, it's kind of dangerous, to be honest. I won't call it anything other than that, because misinformation, deliberate information in seeking clicks and views, rage bait, all of these things are very dangerous, and they are dangerous to, bringing it full circle, to the culture at large.
Yes.
Because what they do is they cause a cultural discourse that ends up potentially taking hold as norms. And we have seen this repeatedly. And what is even scarier is, as part of the culture, like you and myself, because of course it's easy to call us the minorities. Yes, we are minorities in number. But let's face it, when it comes to the culture and what people think is cool and interesting and want to be a part of, we are very much the drivers of that. Let's be clear.
Yes.
The brown is the culture.
Mm-hmm.
No matter whether you're talking about beauty standards or whatever, they don't want to be us, but they want to be like us in every way. And so when we recognize, and some do recognize, that's what's even more dangerous. When there are individuals who recognize the power of that, and the power of that is used like the Death Star,
yes,
then it can, then that drives minds, that drives what people think is important, what is not. That impacts how people relate to one another. And then again, making yet another pivot, that also relates to how people relate to the law, how it's applied, whether or not people should be held responsible or accountable for the things that they do, whether it is legally or socially. And that is very concerning. Because in a case like this, the discourse on this, and I know you've seen it, the discourse on this is in a lot of spaces is very nasty. And I think part of that is very calculated because there are individuals who know, like they try to make fun of it, but the reason why they try to make fun, and I'm just going to call out names, we know the reason why you have people like the 50 Cent and the people like on the Breakfast Club with their questionable commentary and many others. The reason why you have that level of questionable commentary is because this case, which was a long time coming, let's be clear, it was coming. Russell Simmons just happened to be smart enough to hop overseas to somewhere where you can't go get him. But this was coming. I've said in many circles, even years ago when I first started my podcast, that when the Me Too movement or any peripheral movement that is a part of that, just any type of movement that was a reckoning for bad behavior, and certainly behaviors that related to coercive activity and questionable activity towards young people, both male and female, towards women, that begin to raise an eyebrow at that BET After Dark era and everything that came after that. When that door opened, all hell was going to break loose. And you saw a peek at it with the R. Kelly piece, but individuals were able to very artfully defend him on the one hand, but still kind of dismiss himself on the other hand. It was very calculated to make sure that you kept joking around, calling him the Pied Piper or the Pied Piper of R&B. Remember that. Always R&B, not the culture, because let's be clear, R. Kelly influenced the culture and he was very much involved in hip hop culture.
Without question.
It was very calculated to make the language clear, because language is important, because things are going on even when you think they're not. It is very calculated to try to make this isolated. Just like when people try to make this all about some predictions, Cat Williams said this or Cat Williams said that. It's a way of isolating it to make it seem like, well, he said this about Diddy. He said this about this person, Tyler Perry, or whatever. And we'll have to do a whole other talk about that.
Yeah.
But he's and I pulled the case. So if anytime you want to hop on and we can really
I think you got my IG, right? I think.
Yes, but we'll figure it out. And I think I wrote it down, but either way, we'll figure it out.
Okay,
but,
all good.
At any rate, very particular ways of trying to box this in, because this is not just a Diddy issue. This is a cultural issue. And if or when he is found guilty of any number of these things, because it's very easy when someone is just dealing with the civil penalties. Yes, that hurt Diddy. And people like, oh, he had to pay money. But again, when you're only dealing with the civil, guess what? It's easy for the people who need to box this in to just say, well, it doesn't matter. That's not an implication of anything. That was just somebody trying to get a lick. Once you get into the criminal setting, is a lot more scary, because while a lot of these people, because things happened so long ago, can't be prosecuted, well, you never know, depending on what the investigation looks like, because I'm sure Diddy thought he couldn't be prosecuted either. It gets a lot more scarier. It drags out. If there's a criminal process, you can't just pay it off overnight. Now you got months and months of people talking about this. And as you talk about it in the right spaces, it's dissected. And people like you and me do start talking about the BET After Dark era. We do start talking about the fact that there were documentaries that started coming out in like the 2000s that would show what was going on video sets, and VH1 started to do them, and suddenly, like overnight, the documentaries stopped and you can't even find them. Remember, there was right around the time when the Video Vixen book came out. Remember, so when the Video Vixen book came out, and then you had a couple of them talking a little bit more, but she was the main one. I believe it was VH1, because VH1 was always good at doing those kind of behind the music and,
yes,
and
they
those
were.
type of things. They did smartly, because I mean, if I had capital, I would have done the same thing. They capitalized on people on the floodgates that she opened up, and did, I want to say, at least 2 or 3 documentaries, maybe about an hour long, on that whole Video Vixen era. And they would go back to find those girls, or who are now young women, who were in a lot of those videos. It was just as exploitive. And clearly, because if you go back and look at a lot of those videos, you could see that a lot of those girls were not of age, but they would go to town and they would give them some money, and they would show up. Now, some of them were just barely college age. I was in college in the early 90s, and I'm dating myself, but oh well, I look good. So I was in college in the early 90s. And because I went to Rutgers, of course, we had proximity to New York. And of course, a lot of the girls I went to school with lived all over New Jersey and New York and what have you. So of course, rappers would come to campus for, different shows and stuff, or just coming to campus just to hang out. Because, you get pretty girls, you get the smart pretty girls.
Yes.
But smart pretty girls are dumb too when it comes to being in videos. I know girls personally who was on that boat in the Rump Shaker video. Okay, so, and they were just barely legal, because when you go to college, you're just barely legal.
Correct.
You're not even 21, you're just barely legal as in 18. But when you look at those videos, and I know I keep saying BET After Dark, but that was such a defining era with the videos, because that took raunch to a whole other level. Uncle Luke and all of them, they got away with highway robbery, and he can go out and threaten whoever he wants about whatever he wants. And because he knows that they paid those young women enough to just go ahead and do the video and then move on with their lives. And maybe if they look different now, they don't want to admit it was them. But we know, because you could look at them. You know babies when you see them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, let me tell y'all something. There is a full-grown difference between an 18-year-old and a motherfucking Jill Scott. Okay?
And let's call a spade, just like they said when y'all uncle, what's his name? Old boy who people like on. Yeah, him. He your uncle. He my uncle. I'm of the school of thought, if you mess with them when they 19, do I have to finish that sentence?
That part.
Okay. So, but anyway, you and I, we get into the cultural commentary of it all, but the ramifications of this, as you have been repeatedly pointing out, go well beyond Diddy. And that scares people. So the best way to deal with that is to shut it down by making it, this is stupid, it's a witch hunt, they're just trying to take another black man down, he was trying to buy NBC, remember the whole excuses with Cosby or whatever. Meanwhile, there was enough women coming. I used to say to people that there were so many women that came forward in the Cosby case that even if, give me a second, write a new message. And actually, what I'm going to do in a few moments, if you just bear with me, I'm going to switch because people keep calling my phone. I don't know, they get home from work. So I'm going to switch from my phone to my computer. So if I drop, let me just look at it to make sure.
Okay, you're good.
I have the StreamYard thing. Okay, so now you're gonna see me. I'm not gonna drop until you see me backstage.
Okay.
So that way we are good with that, and then also I can share it more so we could get more folks down in the comments.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Hey everybody, welcome in. We are live on tour. This is just John here. We were on Remixing Politics and Culture with Pam and Latrice Davis as well. The jury has went home for the day. There was a partial verdict reached on 4 of the 5 counts. The judge is not accepting that. The judge is not accepting it here, there, or anywhere. The judge that he is, to use a Dr. Seuss quote. So he wants a full-fledged verdict, and me and John are just here chatting up, making it do what it do with all of you. Like, comment, share, and subscribe here. And one of the interesting things that we talked about. Okay, I see you there. I see you.
Oh, you mean there?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna leave on my phone.
Okay, there we go. One of the interesting things that we talked about on Remixing Politics and Culture with Pam, which, by the way, if you want to see that episode, it is on this channel and her channel as well, on Pam's channel. One of the interesting things we talked about was making the band, and I think John will remember this moment. I said it would be very interesting if Paramount Global and some of the production staff and crew from that production company at MTV happened to testify.
Okay.
And
could you
also,
imagine?
Listen, because let me tell you something. I remember Melody Sharif from Love and Marriage Huntsville. She said they keep the footage on lock for 10 years. And not to mention, on top of that footage, Diddy was known. He was on TRL. He was on 106 & Park. Now, of course, TRL 106 & Park, those were live shows. But also, too, if a celebrity can't come, and for those of you who may not know this, I'm about to break some TV magic right now, so I am so sorry for your mental that's about to be broken right now. If a celebrity cannot come, what they will do days in advance is they will fly in. Now, sometimes it's announced on like oneiota.com or oncameraaudiences.com of like, hey, Diddy will be at 106 & Park, but for a tape segment that will air that day of the live show. That actually does happen, okay? And sometimes we go to a talk show, if you stay over, there are segments that are taped after the show, promos and interviews and everything else. So Diddy was known very, very much in the mainstream. And also, too, he executive produced the Billboard Music Awards on NBC. So I'm sure they got Fudge a rehearsal. But what's very interesting to me, just John, that none of the media companies were subpoenaed.
Oh, of course not.
Testimony, nor any evidence of footage from that rehearsal from the Billboard Music Awards or anything of BET, MTV, Making the Band, or any media appearances that were taped or live. And let me tell you something, there was some clips of, actually, you know what? Hang on, let me pull up a clip because you might not have seen this. Hang on, let me go to Ellen Diddy 5-second rule. Now, listen, this is no faking this. Now, shout out to Twitch, who is no longer here. I feel like me and Twitch would have been some really good friends, but I want y'all to watch this. So for those of you who don't know, the 5-second rule. Well, I mean, we would have been good friends, except I can't dance, but he can. So, But that's neither here nor there. But I am a good time either way. I can do the cha-cha slide and some other things, but like Dancing with the Stars, no, I will not be called for that. No, not here, not there, not anywhere. Braylon Lee, I am. But the 5-second rule game is you get a category, you have to say 5 things about that category within 5 seconds. And so I will just let this clip play. Here we go.
All right, we're back with Sean Diddy Combs. Is it Diddy today? Because sometimes you're Puffy and sometimes you're Diddy. Or sometimes you're Daddy. What are you today?
I'm so confused today with it. As long as you say it in a nice way.
All right.
Just right.
Yeah. Diddy.
This right here is the new Ciroc mango.
Of course.
That was just a tacky product placement.
That's all right.
It's all right, but I needed a drink.
Yep.
And here's to us.
Yeah. All right. What do you have there? What's that?
Oh, no, something I brought for Portia.
She's not here.
No, but you was going to give it to her as a gift.
All right. Then I'll say it's mine?
Yeah.
Okay. That's sweet. Well, what about for me? Oh, look at that. That's so sweet. Thank you. How come it's for Portia and not me?
Because you're going to have her wear it. And,
All right.
Yo, Alan, we go so far back. You don't tell these people how.
He is a mess. He was, and you could tell he was lit as hell.
Oh, yeah.
He was
Oh,
lit
absolutely.
as hell.
Absolutely. And keep watching Twitch's face because, oh my God, here we go. Yo.
How far back we go?
I know, but I wear t-shirts. I don't know what that means. Anyway, all right. Let's.
I mean,
you hold that.
Okay.
All right.
I got this take 2 if the joke didn't work.
No, it's okay.
I don't want no problems.
No, it's okay.
No, hold on.
I mean,
so cheers. Hey! Ellen, I heard you were sick, and look what I got you. Your boy. So whenever you get sick, you can have this.
Oh, thank you so much. That's sweet. I probably won't wear it, but Portia would.
wild. Absolutely wild. And it's just like, what are you, what is he even talking about?
Child, so random. And listen, y'all, this was daytime television. Okay. Now listen, I have a lit personality. But I have natural lit energy. Okay. Child, when I did not know about this clip until there was an article showcasing different clips, and this was one of them. And what is said within the 5-second rule game, child, this is just the lead up. This is just the lead up, child.
I love you.
I love you too. All right, let's play a game. All right, so we're going to play 5-second rule. Do you know how to play this game?
No.
Basically, it's you have 5 seconds. You have to go really, really fast. You have to name 3 things in whatever category that.
3 things, not 5 things. My bad.
Yeah, you'll need more of that. Definitely, that speeds you up. So, so he's going to name a category, and we have to name 3 things in that category in 5 seconds.
Yes.
I'll start first, and then you hit.
Hang on. Where? Okay, hang on. See, sometimes StreamYard is StreamYarding, and it will not do what it needs to do. So y'all saw a little bit, or at least I hope you saw a little bit of the beginning of it. But here we go. Here we go, right here. Okay, here we go.
All right, so we're gonna play 5-second rule. Do you know how to play this game?
No.
Basically, it's you have 5 seconds. You have to go really, really fast. You have to name 3 things in whatever category that. Yeah, you'll need more of that. Definitely, that speeds you up. So he's gonna name a category, and we have to name 3 things in that category in 5 seconds.
Yes.
I'll start first, and then you hit this as soon as you have said them, so that you see
Okay.
it. All right, and I'll start, and then you'll see what this is like, and then it'll be your turn.
I got you.
Okay.
Ellen, name 3 things you do in Vegas.
You gamble, you watch shows, and you sleep.
Sleep. All right, Diddy. Name 3 things you've done at 3 a.m. I'm always up at 3 a.m. So I'm having sex, I'm making music, and I'm thinking about what I have to do at 7 a.m. That was it?
And listen, Ellen's face is like, motherfucker. I showcased to you how to do this game. And then Twitch is looking at the clock like, listen, I'm in the house, you know. I'm in a very nice mansion, rather not house, but I'm in the mansion, and that's at 0 seconds. You passed the time.
It was very telling. You know what also was very telling? Did you ever see that footage of Diddy? It was released. It was a video of Diddy and Kevin Hart. Am I stalling?
No, you're good. I can hear you loud and clear, beautiful, loud and clear.
Okay, it's the little live clock looks like it's skipping ahead, but as long as the sound isn't stalling, we'll go with it. Okay, so it was with Kevin Hart, and I will never forget, because again, you talk about individuals who may have had some awareness and removed themselves, and we're going to talk about that piece as well, because where are the friends? Where is everybody who was at the party? Where is Bad Boy? Where's Mary J, Faith? One was he? I always get it mixed up. One was 112 and one was Total. Which one was which? Well, one of them was Jermaine Dupri and one of them was Diddy. I always get them mixed up. Whichever one he had try to jump Wendy Williams.
Oh no! I think that was 112. I think. Hang on, let me make sure.
Yeah, because remember there were two girl groups that sounded
girls.
exactly alike, and one was
Yes.
Dupree and one was Diddy.
Yes, it was Total. Yep.
Okay.
That's what it was, Total.
So yeah, because there Can't You See, right?
Yep.
Can't you see what you do to me? Okay.
Yes.
So anyway, where they at? Now, I'm not saying that they have to testify in court, because nobody wants to do that.
No.
And I'm not mad at it. But where are these people coming to court with the family now? Not that that's something you want to sit through. I'm mortified that the daughters have been there through this whole thing. I have a daughter their age. It's his baby's just graduated. Well, he has a younger one too, but the twins literally just graduated from high school. So those girls are newly 18 or about to be 18. I think they already had their 18th birthday, but they're babies.
Right.
And in the grand scheme of things, children sitting through this. Now, sadly, barely older than the young women that him and his cronies have messed with for years. I mean, but that part was very concerning. But that being said, where were these people? And that's and I think that brings us back to what you were saying about guilt by association, or people being concerned about guilt by association.
Yes.
Because if I was at the white party, everybody didn't leave. Because, see, that's what everybody claims. Well, yeah, I was at the white party, but I left. Now, we know that there are probably some people who left. We know that some of the folks of a certain age, they left. We know that. Especially any of, probably you factor in maybe your middle-aged women and some, then maybe even some of the men. We know that there is a certain group of individuals who, if they say they left, we could probably take it to the bank that they left. But not all of them. Not all of them. And in fact, in recent years, the big white party has included just as much, whereas back in the day, it was all A-list. There's been a lot of B, C, D, and Z lists there as well. If you look at some of the recent years with those parties, you are seeing individuals whose claim to fame is love and hip hop. Not even the housewives. So I'm sure maybe some of them throughout the years, but in recent years, there has been, I want to say, what was it? Maybe 2 years ago, 2 of them even got into a fight. They squabbled up at the party. So we know that not everybody left. And so when you look at that video of Kevin Hart, where he was joking around, did you see the video where, gosh, I wish I'd find it, but my computer is acting up, so I don't want to mess with any buttons right now. But anyway, there's a video, and it definitely floated around a lot in that first couple of months, even right after the Cassie lawsuit, before the indictment, where Kevin is joking around. They're all like, I want to say they might have even been in what could have been a hotel room or maybe a bedroom, because I could have sworn there was a bed. And so Kevin was like, all right, y'all, I'm about to go because the party is over. And he basically kind of, and of course you say things, you don't know that years later it's going to come back and look real different. But he was like, oh, well, I got to go because, the after party, I ain't trying to be at that.
Right.
Kevin said it. Did you saw that video?
Yes. I think that was from what? The Real House Husbands of Hollywood, I think.
I don't even know if that was, no, because Diddy was in the video.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, if it was from the Real House Husbands, I don't know, but Diddy was physically in the video. That's why it was like goofy, because it was like, why are these grown men look like they horse playing in a hotel room or on the bed? Is this, I mean, let's face it, I know it sounds sexist, but it's very different when you see a bunch of women doing that versus when you see a bunch of men. We get hotels and act silly and whatever all the time. We might have 5 different rooms but manage to somehow congregate in one and all get dressed and makeup and whatever. It's a whole lot different, and when you see men do it, and especially these rich men of a certain age and certain reputations, because while Kevin's name hasn't been brought up in any of this, and I don't want to cast any aspersions on anybody whose name hasn't formally been brought up, he's got quite a little past himself when it comes to his escapades with women. Nothing in terms of allegations that I'm aware of in terms of anybody doing anything against their will, but again, a known womanizer. I don't think that is anything saying anything untoward to say that. The multiple affairs and even marrying the alleged mistress kind of tells that story. But not to beat Kevin Hart up, but the point is, you have these men who have a reputation of that we all know about, and they're in this room together, and the one is like, I gotta go because it gets buck up in here.
Yes.
There is a certain knowingness and there's a certain wink and moving away. Even with 50 Cent. Now, people, I don't know why people give so much grace to this man. I think people like the fact that he is a troll.
He is.
But
He definitely is a troll.
But
He
he's a troll who makes it clear how much he hates women on a regular basis. So unlike most people, I can't appreciate the troll side of things for anything other than, you know, you being a member of the He-Man Woman Haters Club who just happens to hit a joke right twice a day.
Oh,
you
absolutely.
know, but
Because
you know,
there- because
broken
during
clocks do certain things twice a day as well.
Right. Because during
that
the trial,
being,
during the trial, he and I am so shocked that now the TMZ article the judge got upset with, but the judge did not get upset with 50 Cent because he was so damn petty for this shit. He put the alleged person who was in the courtroom next to the sketch and said, "Hey, can y'all help me out with something? I'm trying to research this. This Elon Musk
that was
47 thing is crazy."
outrageous.
And I'm just like, do you not know, motherfucker, that you could be charged with this shit? And
he doesn't care because when
Oh
you
my
when
God.
you operate in this world of doing what you want and lawlessness, and if you want to, so that we could all stop looking at Ellen, I'm sure everybody's tired of it. Feel free. But in this world, and that's why I bring him up, right? Because 50 Cent had no, and again, it speaks to where the culture is that you joke around or you anecdotally discuss what he said as it relates to one person, yet somehow, and we know the culture does this a lot, have this cognitive dissonance about what that says about him. Now I'm going to talk about the Diddy thing, and then I'll talk about Tierra Marie again in terms of that cognitive dissonance. When the Cassie case came out, now we know that Diddy and 50 has had this, it's so weird to say Diddy and 50, Sean and Curtis, they call them what their mamas named them, have had some kind of, you know, girl fight going on for years. I guess not unlike Curtis's falling out with Floyd Mayweather, because isn't that a thing too? Him and Floyd fell out as well.
yes, I do.
Okay,
I do
before
believe so.
right, the Floyd Ray J thing came much later, but
Yes.
before there was a Ray J, there was Curtis and Floyd and their infamous fallout.
Correct.
And so, at any rate, for however many years, because most of us had no reason to pay it any attention, and of course, it predated Floyd becoming the social media troll that he seems to love being. He and Diddy had this falling out, so that led 50 to commit what most girlfriends would call the ultimate break in girl code, which is, even if you and somebody are not friends anymore, you don't reveal the secrets that were discussed when you were friends, because then you're just dirty.
Yep.
So aside from the fact that, you know, these guys he behaves like a middle school girl in terms of code breaking, the other piece is that when he called himself tattling on Diddy, he spoke more than one time about debaucherous things that Diddy provided to him, specifically photos of Cassie. Remember, he said Diddy sent him photos of Cassie and I think maybe even other individuals. And the bottom line is, it sounded like, in addition to Cassie, they just, when they were friends, had this exchange of debauchery. Now, contrary to what 50 would have you to believe, at a certain point, somebody is not continuing to send you things if you are not reciprocating in some way with your own BS, or you are okay with it. even as a woman, most women I know, especially those in the dating pool, would say that it only takes one time for one of these stupid dudes to send them an unsolicited D-pic, and then they're like, don't send them to me anymore. I'm not reciprocating, and I never asked to see yours, and it does not continue.
Right.
So if Diddy is sending him this steady stream of stuff, what do you think that Fitty is doing? But more insidious than that is the fact that no one stopped to ask the question, what the hell does that say about you? All of you who have these stories like Fitty about how you were sitting there and Diddy bragged to you about how he made Cassie shave the side of her head or sent the pictures of her, whatever. You are a part of that. You're a part of that ignorance. You're a part of that, no different than the people around R. Kelly who knew about the things that he had going on were a part of it. Now, some more than others, because that's where you get into things like RICO, as we know, bringing it back to both the R. Kelly case and the Diddy case, which has a lot of similarities in terms of RICO theory. But you also have just, what does that say about the stuff you have going on? So I posit that even though individuals like Fitty like to put out there, oh, I know Diddy did this, and I know that Diddy did that, Diddy nasty, Diddy this and that and the third, they are still a part of trying of the effort to dumb down the discourse, to make the discourse about women or men supposedly trying to get a lick. They are a part of that because, going back to your initial premise, if Diddy gets convicted, then what's next? And what are the implications for the larger reckoning in the culture, and particularly hip hop, which has been long overdue for a reckoning?
Yes, without question. And one of the things to those articulate points, when Mary J. Blige played Monet on Power Book 2 Ghost, sorry to all the Power fans, I did not mean to butcher that. Power Book 2 Ghost. The first thing I thought of was, how did that work? Because they're rivals. How did that work? Unless Mary J laid it down like, listen here, motherfucker, I know that you found me, but I'm my own woman.
You know what? I'm going to look right now that I've freed up my phone. I wonder who Mary is. I'm going to look right now. Mary J. Blige label. Okay, so, well, all right. So she's still sort of connected to them because Mary J, right now, she's currently signed to 300 Entertainment. She has her own imprint. She was previously assigned to Uptown, as we know, which was Associated MCA, Geffen, Verge, Republic. And of course, originally Uptown, which, as we know, that's Bad Boy kind of jumped off of that as well. So I think that while Mary J's print is still a part of her blueprint, is still very much the original, her connection to Uptown, you know, Bad Boy, all of those things. As far as what she can and can't do, I think she's far removed from them being involved in the day-to-day of what she does contractually.
Yeah. And I just want to say this to y'all. Just because I brought that up does not mean I'm trying to bring Mary into this, the trial.
No, but these are good questions.
Yes, go ahead.
No, I said these are still good questions because remember, Mary J was a part of wasn't she a part of the reunion? Wasn't she a part of the Bad Boy reunion tour?
She was a part of the Bad Boy reunion tour, I think.
Yeah, yes. I don't know. I don't think she did it like every single date, But she
But
definitely
she was
did it because
definitely
she
a
was
part.
like the big attraction when they went to the big cities like New York, Philly, DC, etc.
Yes.
Because she was, I mean, Mary J. It's funny, you know, because obviously they love to give people the labels. Although Mary J., I guess Faith Evans was considered the first lady of Bad Boy, which I guess technically being Biggie's former wife, but as you and I know, it's deeper than that. It's because she wrote for everybody. Like, you know, she is that Bad Boy blueprint in terms of the writing, and she wrote it, including for Mary J. But she got a poison pen. So she had first lady status in that regard, but I think Faith notwithstanding, and we're loyal to Faith, we love Faith because, you know, she's got a beautiful voice, we know all the things that she wrote and did behind the scenes, but the true first lady, or shall we say the queen of Bad Boy, is undisputedly Mary J. Blige.
Absolutely.
I mean, even as much as we love Lil' Kim, it's still Mary J. Because Mary J. was consistent through the 90s with putting out that music, and she became a soundtrack all to herself.
Yes.
Now, Lil' Kim, arguably on the rap side, and there's no no taking that away from her, but it's Mary J. Blige.
Yes.
You say Bad Boy, you're going to say Mary J. even before you say Lil' Kim, and that is no slight to Lil' Kim at all.
No,
It's just the volume of music and her impact.
And let me tell you something. If there is any other auntie in the entertainment industry that wear boots, we can be like, hold up, what you doing?
Exactly.
What are you doing? Well, well, a fan gave me these boots. Okay, that's cute. Take those off.
Yeah, I mean, we'll let Beyonce do it because she Beyonce, but other than that, take them boots off.
That part. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, and Beyonce ain't even doing that. She'd do cowboy boots.
Right.
Exactly. So yes, you have to wear boots. And if you're not married and you're wearing boots, then Salt and Pepper, we let them wear boots.
Yes.
But that's it. Salt, Pepper, Spin, and Mary. The only ones allowed to wear thigh-high boots.
Yes.
So and even Salt and Pepper, like, you know, it's too hot for that now. Mary at this point was so strategic with it that she straight up got a deal with Giuseppe. So I ain't mad at it. Keep wearing them, girl, till your feet hurt.
Yes.
And we know they do because she danced like her feet hurt.
Oh my God, yeah. She is and this is the thing too, right? I think what is really a struggle for people, John, is that people are like, how, and I think this happened with, you know, R. Kelly, it happened with Matt Lauer, it happened with Charlie Rose, it happened with Harvey Weinstein.
And if you want to go even further back, because he just died today, and I thought the man had been dead for years. No shade, Jimmy Swaggart. I have sinned. Now that was before your time.
Absolutely, no, absolutely for sure. With all those men, and I say this to my audience very, very plainly whenever someone passes away, of the loss we feel as either a viewer or consumer of them from a fan point of view is way different than the industry losing them, right? Because they have stories that we will never hear.
Never.
Like, even when Braylon's virtual tour gets to television, I'm speaking that into existence, and everybody falls in love with me.
Into existence, and I'm claiming that I'm going to be your first guest on the couch.
Listen, I'm for it. I'm absolutely here for it. Same, amen. With that being said, even when people do, you know, finally figure out who I am and that I'm good people, that I'm consistent, I'm about my ish, there are stories that they will share with me on Braylon's virtual tour because we cool like that. But there will still be stories that they will never ever share on my show If they do share it with me behind the scenes, that's because I gain enough trust. But believe me, there will be stories beyond the stories that they tell me and tell y'all on our show that they will never say, ever. So,
and you can take it to the bank that as much as we do know, and as bizarre, because I won't even say shocking, because if you work in certain industries long enough, there's very little that shocks you. And while I do a lot of civil now, I still do criminal defense because that's how I cut my teeth from day one. So I've been a criminal defense attorney now for damn near 25 years. And so there is very little that shocks me, not to mention that I come from a very colorful family, to say the least. So I'm not shocked by very much. So yes, shocking to the public, but also very bizarre. There were elements about this, not some elements, just most of it about this case, that when you get beyond the shock value, because I think part of the shock value for a lot of people when they really think about it, when you consider how much is so readily available to people on the internet and television, and and certainly in the past 20 years or so, especially post NC-17 becoming a thing, things that you could see on TV, not to mention I know that since it's on YouTube, the porn industry. There is, I think the shock factor is the fact that it has been talked about so openly, but the fact that people do these things, I don't think is shocking. I think it's just the fact that it was so openly discussed. But what it definitely is bizarre, because once you get over the fact that it's, are we really talking about freak-offs in public or whatever? I think what was bizarre to me, and please tell me your thoughts on this, is the frequency of these alleged activities and the sheer number of moving parts to make these things happen, which again lends itself to the fact that you're not going through this level of elaborate planning and setup and all of that if the only people who are there is you. Now, I'm sure there were sessions, and we know that some of the guys who participated, particularly one or two that testified, one that testified in court and one who's been openly talking online, that yes, there were certainly times when it was just the two of them, and and that's all well and good. But there was a lot of times that I find it very hard to believe that with that level and amount of setup and planning, that it was just them or just the people that they talked about.
Question. And I think that's the crux of it too, with the fans of Diddy and with the fans of the culture. And believe me, there's a distinction and difference between those two audiences, ladies and gentlemen. Is that how in the hell could you have this much free time to do this when you showcase this bad boy lifestyle of being a music producer, being an artist, and being a boss, and being this and that, and being the owner of Ciroc and De Leon and Revolt? We see so many of your responsibilities. We feel like your time is tied into that. Little did we know. You had a lot more free time than most. And not to mention, too, everybody, because we saw this in an ABC News clip. I think this past week, if my memory serves me right, that he was still planning freak-offs leading up to his arrest.
Oh, absolutely. It's we don't know the extent of it, but we do know that I guess what we can assume, right? We can't say what we know. What we can assume, and I think safely, is that if what the things that he used, and Cassie talked about it, and others were implements of a typical freak off, he had those things with him. And that speaks to a whole other, because now we're talking about pathology as well. You are there, which I do think that if we get to a sentencing phase, is going to definitely be a part of the conversation. It's going to have to be. Now, again, probably not a sentencing phase. Now, I think that if he's found guilty of anything at this point, his attorneys are probably going to treat the sentencing phase of this just like they treated their time to put on a defense case. They're not going to do much, because at this point all they want is for the case to be over so that they can begin the appeals process. That's why you saw in today's process his attorneys being absolutely fine with dragging the jurors back tomorrow and not telling them that they may end up having to deliberate Thursday if they don't finish tomorrow, and the whole thing, because his team wants this situation over. Of course, if he's found not guilty, you want it over. But more importantly, if he is found guilty, you want it over, because you can't start the appeals process until that happens. I think they are also hoping, especially given the current state of the White House, who's in there, things that Trump has said, and I would bet money discussions that have already been had, that anything that he's found guilty of, that they are going to be seeking a pardon. And given that these are federal charges and not state charges, they are ripe for a pardon. They don't need to go through the governor of New York, because the governor of New York isn't going to do it, because that would go through Chris James. That would go to the governor's office, and we know that they are all good with each other. So because this is a federal case, this would would be ripe for them to try and end run directly with Donald Trump. And despite the typical history of how pardons are handled, technically there really is no specific standard, which I was shocked about when researching this issue for something else. The presidential pardon power and the commuting power, while there are certain general standards that over the years presidents have used just to give themselves something to work with, because when you're making a decision, you want to have some framework to work with. So there are I won't even say standards, there's just some customary things that they look for, number of years and all that kind of stuff. However, none of that is codified at all. None of it is mandatory. It's just sort of course of dealing. And so ultimately, if a president wants to do it, like, and somebody was just convicted, 2 days ago, they can. I mean, and if there's no better example of that, it is the January 6th people, because their convictions were barely a couple of years ago, and the first thing he did was pardon them when he got into office. So I think they want this over with because of those two things very quickly, and they're not gonna do anything. But anyway, the reason what got me onto that tangent was talking about pathology. If this case were to be tried again, let's say he appealed, let's say he's not pardoned, he appeals, the appeals court says, nope, we're good with it, go ahead, back down, either try him again because of some errors, or go ahead and you can have a sentencing or whatever. That's when I do believe they will start talking about pathology. There's no way that any defense attorney with half of a brain would not then shift gears to being like, okay, you're found guilty, we're not going to get out of that part. Now we need to start convincing them that something is wrong with you.
Yes.
And that's what brings us back to the hotel thing, because it does make you wonder, is something wrong with a mofo who when you're coming to town for the express purpose of surrendering yourself to the feds,
and still planning it.
You still have 12 gallons of baby oil, the pink powder, and Astroglide. Let's not. And I'm still trying to figure out how slippery do you need to be that you need baby oil and Astroglide. I've been trying to figure that out for a year now.
That part.
I mean, for real. Like, if anybody can enlighten us, because it looks like me and Braylon are lost on that.
Yes, indeed.
So the pathology of it is very, very interesting. Or is it just that, like they say, absolute power corrupts absolutely, and in his world, he had absolute power. We watched him go unchecked with having some kids walk to Brooklyn to get him some cheesecake, and everybody's like, ha ha, because he's the boss. Look what Diddy made them do.
Right.
We watched when MTV would have, we saw firsthand that MTV never allowed the white kids to get away with on their shows, because I'm gonna call it their shows, Bunham and Murphy, white people. MTV, The Challenge. MTV's The Challenge, Real World, Road Rules, all of that. Yes, they get them liquored up and they set them up to act rowdy and have sex and fight and whatever. But we also saw that despite the fact that they set these poor kids up, once they did start fighting, what did they do? They sent them home.
Yeah.
Yet on Diddy's show, not now, we know that MTV allowed that to happen because it was a bunch of folk that look like us. They you know, because that's what they think of us. But there's another element of it too, the power of it. Because what kind of power trip that you're on? What kind of power trip are you on that you delight in watching this? So now we're not just talking about Diddy, we're also talking about the people around him who are profiting from these things, the people who were also profiting, because Bad Boy didn't operate in a vacuum, because Bad Boy is a subsidiary.
Yes.
Bad Boy doesn't have a skyscraper of his own.
No.
So you're looking at who profited off of Diddy keeping the girlies and the boys in line by cheating them out of their masters, their residuals, paying them whatever and sending them out broke.
I think that this trial has really covered all bases of media, culture, and industry in terms of business. Because one of the questions from Law and Crime that one of the people entered into the chat and asked, do you think that this trial will make the industry rethink their movement and have celebrities think what they do? And I thought it was interesting, but I'm like you, Jonda. I'm like, at this point, with it being this long, I don't think so.
Well, and it's about money. We are in a capitalist society.
Yes.
It's all about money. Anything that anybody can get away with and still make money, they will. Plus, you have a mindset in the you've got a mindset in the culture. If Diddy gets convicted, let's say he got convicted of everything, right? The RICO, all the so we talking counts 1 through 5. He got convicted of everything, which carries up to life in prison. All of that is would that change anything? No. People would still just be saying free Diddy, and when they just trying to take down a black man and blah blah blah. And that's not just men. The culture is trained in both deep-rooted misogyny and misogynoir. So these things, will it change? No. Will it cause more discussions about these things? I think in certain channels, yes. Will it cause people to perhaps be a little bit more cautious? I think as long as there's a hunger for fame, no, there isn't. I think we see the reality TV era shows that. And of course, Instagram, TikTok, and the fact that you can literally be famous for nothing as long as you are consistent in that nothingness. So all of those things I don't think will cause a change. I think what it allows for is discourse on a level that perhaps people were not having out in the open as much. But changing, no, because you still have even louder voices who still are viewing this as the persecution of a Black man. This is sacrifice. This is a humiliation ritual. This is the Illuminati who felt like he needed to be put in his place and it was time for him for the sacrifice and whatever. And again, that's where the cognitive dissonance comes in and the cherry picking of certain conversations. Because, for instance, with the Cat Williams thing, for all the people, and I know a lot of intelligent people who I literally had to look at sideways with the whole extolling the virtues of that Cat Williams interview. And, he predicted all of this and whatever. And I'm looking at these very intelligent people going, no, I'm never going to say that Cat Williams is dumb. He's not. He wouldn't be able to do the things that he does if he isn't. And he's excellent, as many comedians are. Whether you agree with them or not, the ones who are the best, who do social commentary as a part of their comedy, are very, very intelligent, but also to stay current, they have to pay attention to what's going on in the world and what's going on socially and whatever. The things that he said and the things that he allegedly predicted were not anything that anybody who is not paying attention to culture and what had been going on socially in the world don't know. And the whole thing where he said there's a lot of truths that are going to come out and blah, 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 blah. There's always truths that come out. Always. It just depends on when one thing or another is going to jump off. Yeah, it's all a matter of when the T drops, because quite frankly, this man had been under investigation for years. Cassie and her people had been going back and forth with him about potentially suing him for years. And there were multiple lawsuits prior to Cassie's that people don't know about that had been filed and settled well before hers. So all of these things had been already going on. And you also add to it that, of course, with Cat being in the industry, he's paying attention to both sides of the industry. He has, in order to function and be successful, even though he may spend most of his time dealing with Black people, he still has to pay attention to what everybody is doing in order to navigate those spaces. So,
and not to mention too, with Cat Williams, I will say this. I believe two things can be true, right? I believe that what Cat said did open a portal. I do believe that, because ever since then, this portal has not closed. But in the same token, I think Cat would have been like, hold on, y'all. Now listen, I just said what was on my mind, okay? I didn't expect all this shit. Like, can we be honest?
On top of that, you have to, the reason why I was looking at people sideways is because, okay, fine, so you want to say, well, Cat predicted this, Cat predicted that, but then the mofo was still sitting there talking about, the Illuminati and this one, and the only one person with the afro and the only one person with the short hair and the long hair, whatever. So, there's some filtering through grains of salt that needs to happen here too. Let's not act like for every 2 or 3 things he said that were true, there was another, at least 1 or 2 where you was like, now Ninja, come on.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah.
But I bring him up to say that those types of things allow people to narrow as we talked about earlier, it allows people to narrow the lens and narrow the scope and make this just about this and not looking at the broader implications of the fact that, yes, he was charged with RICO in the sense that these things were done to serve him and his whims, very similar to the theory of RICO in the R. Kelly case, but it does speak to greater implications about what goes on across the board. And we have seen examples of it. And just because not everybody files a lawsuit or presses charges or what have you, it doesn't mean that it did not happen exactly the way that these individuals said that the things happened to them, and B, that that there isn't a larger problem. For instance, like you said, the two things can be true. The person who most people connect with 50 Cent, but we not going to put her out there. She was called Jane Doe. What was she? Jane Doe number 1 and Jane Doe number 3. The one that they kept on the stand way too long and she wasn't terribly helpful, wasted everybody's time. When they could have had Brendan.
That was Jane, yes.
Yeah, when they could have had Brendan on there.
Yeah,
now, two things can be true.
Yes.
On the one hand, I do believe the story about the balcony situation. I do not believe that that was made up. What can also be true is that she was a poorly prepared witness who had to who they put on unnecessarily to testify about way too many different things over the course of an amount of time, and did not have her prepared for the 3 most important things that you want a witness prepared to say. I don't remember, I don't know, or I don't recall. Those are the 3 most important things when you're preparing a witness, at least for me, can't say for other attorneys, that you want them to be prepared to say when things either A, get too specific and you really don't remember, don't recall, or don't know, or B, when we just need to be a little bit generous about certain time frames. And I'm not saying lie, but just there's some questions about the, time and place. And so because she clearly either was not prepared in that manner about using those phrases, or she simply got caught up because, again, she was on the stand for way too long about way too many things, and she allowed, or they allowed rather, because I blame the prosecution for this, allowed her to be boxed in on time and place about that balcony incident. I will agree. But I don't discount that event, that situation happened. I don't think that was made up. I think she was poorly prepared to talk about it.
Yeah, I will definitely agree with you there. That I think that testimony was pivotal, because when everybody was saying, well, not everybody, but a good majority was saying, well, wait a minute, why is Cassie at the beginning of it? I'm like, what they are going to do is they are going to have all the other witnesses give their testimony, and then at the end showcase the roadmap of how long we've been on the road for. And it's leading back to Cassie.
2 critical things with Cassie as well is, number 1, putting Cassie on first sets him up as Darth Vader. You want that. You want to remind everybody, you want right out of the gate that to lay the backdrop that for the next few weeks, everything that you hear, we want you to view through the lens of him being a horrible, violent, sexual, deviant, drug-addled, blah, 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 blah. So so there's that piece, and then the second piece is she was getting ready to pop any minute, and for anybody who doubted that, she literally had that baby within, I want to say, a week of getting off the witness stand.
Yes. Yeah.
So
it was, I think
there was
yeah,
a
it was literally
logistical
a week
reason.
right after. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, there was a logistical reason, but I do believe that outside of logistics, there was a strategic reason. Now, is the prosecution there? The prosecution, of course, is going to say it was logistics because, of course, we don't expect them to come out and say, we wanted to make sure everybody viewed every piece of testimony that came after that through the lens of him being a monster. That's the true, just again, that's where you get John the lawyer. That is the real deal versus just, oh, well, we knew she was about to have a baby. Two things can be true. Got to get her on and off because she's about to have a baby. Other thing is, let's start this trial making sure that everybody, that jury, no matter what testimony comes after this, no matter what defense his because you don't know what the defense is going to do yet. No matter what the defense tries to put on to say that he's not a monster, or how many days his mama and kids come up in here to show that he's supported and he's loved and all of those things. And of course, no matter how many times you tell a jury not to pay attention to the outside world, they live in the world. They live in New York. Many of them are getting the subway to and from court. There's no way that they don't know. They're not hearing things and what have you. So you have got to set a tone with them that no matter what the outside influences are, as well as, of course, the inside influences are, you must always view this person through the lens of being a monster. That's important for the type of RICO that they were going for as well, because the type of RICO that they were using with him is a little bit different. Just like with R. Kelly, is a little bit different than the types of cases that when the RICO statute first came along, of course, in response to the mob, the types of cases that RICO typically was used for, certainly probably in the first 20, 30 years of the statute. Yes, they did go after criminals, but the enterprise and the underlying crimes were a lot more clear cut. You know, you've got your tax evasion, your bribery, your straight up murders.
They had to simplify. I think this happened actually today. They actually had to simplify the charge, because for everybody that's just coming in, 2 through 5 they have verdicts on, except for the RICO charge, right? So they had to reduce it down to an Allen charge. So they want this to be in the most simplest terms for the jury to understand.
Well, I think the judges, I at least, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I'll see if I could pull it up, unless you can put it, or maybe you can pull it up. I believe that the judge said he's holding off on the Allen charge. At least that was the last thing I read.
I do believe that is correct. I was just bringing that into the timeline.
Yes. Oh, yes, for sure. I think the prosecution mentioned it, maybe.
Yes.
Or maybe it was Agnifilo. I'm not sure if the prosecution said it. I think Agnifilo, or Agnifilio, however you say his name.
Yes.
Diddy's attorney, kind of anticipated that and sort of put that in the cosmos and said, you know, that this is what the prosecution wants you to do. And then the judge said, I'm not, whatever words he used, but essentially said he's not prepared to do that yet.
Correct. And you know, it's quite interesting, because when we were on Remixing Politics and Culture with Pam, the thing I said, and John got a kick out of this when I said, now this attorney who went on a publicly available documentary called The Downfall of Diddy, the indictment of Tubi, and said, you know, I don't know if it was 1,000 1 bottle of baby oil goes a long way, and the government found 200 bottles of baby oil that your client had, sir, I swear to God, I'm really pissed off that the prosecution did not bring that into the courtroom, because honestly, Harvey Levin and Charles will be like, hey, listen, we interviewed him. Okay, this was separate from the damn trial. We are not implicated in the trial. But I played that clip every chance I could, John, of him saying that, because I'm just like, whenever the defense, for example, when Terry Garagos asked Jane about what bag she got, rather than recognize the space of where we are in the trial, I'm just like, y'all lead attorney for y'all team did this that's available to watch, and y'all believe that y'all gonna win with him as your leader? And Jonna was like, well, Braylon, that was before the trial. I'm like, no, still, like, what the hell is going on?
I mean, I don't even know what to say. And I was cracking up. You had me rolling.
Yes.
Because who does that?
Yeah.
Who says that? Like, there's so many layers to the appeals process that's going to go on here. I do think that his attorneys did a great job but Steele in particular, I don't know about Agnifilo, but Steele definitely did a great job of certainly trying to lay the groundwork for any possible thing that he could come up with for appealable errors. The other thing, but of course, we also know the other thing that Steele does a lot, because he did in the Young Thug trial, was request a mistrial every 30 minutes.
Right.
That part was that got on my nerves. I'm like, bruh, you're not getting a mistrial. I don't even use bruh, but I had to use it on him. You're not getting a mistrial. Sit down somewhere.
There was like what, 3 mistrials and an acquittal. And I'm just like, you do realize that y'all client tried to do that 3 times with a $50 million bailout.
Okay.
Not all 3 times. Like, stop this.
And then it's what I'm looking forward to is, of course, we probably will never know. I want to see an estimation of his legal bill.
Ooh, my Lord.
Because nobody's charging flat rate on this. He is paying by the hour and generously, and these attorneys are making sure, because they can't do anything else but this case right now. So that also means not only are you paying for all of my time and attention, but you're paying for all of my time and attention damn near 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because these attorneys, especially because that court allows you to file letters, so you don't have to go through, all the rigmarole of full-blown, fancy motions practice with all the bells and whistles of how those things are set up. So these attorneys have been filing letters like damn near every night and on the weekends, because the federal court is electronic filing. So damn near every night and on the weekends. They have had this judge working overtime. He the only one whose play is flat, because he gets a salary. Meanwhile, these attorneys, and the same thing with the U.S. attorneys as well. But Diddy's attorneys, hell, when they done with this case, could take a vacation for go to the south of France for the next few months and still come back and still be rich just from this.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
His defense is running, and again, per attorney, because none of these individuals, I'm sure there are obviously some associates from their respective law firms working with them, but all of the ones who are the named attorneys that we see standing up and talking or doing, questioning and all of those things. All of those individuals are individual attorneys from their respective law firms. This is not like LA Law back in the day, or any, the practice or any of the TV shows where it's the one law firm and everybody shows up. These are individually hired from their respective firms, and whatever other associates whose time they are charging you for the work that they are doing, not to mention the fact that then they got to meet with one another and kind of gel in some way. So he is paying hourly 24 hours a day for these attorneys, except for literally the time they're asleep. That's probably the only time that they're not charging him. And I can't imagine any one of them is charging him any less than $1,000 an hour. And I'm saying any less than that because they're charging more.
Oh yeah, I mean, and listen, I have ragged on the defense team very hard because, for example, Mark Anfanello, at the end of his closing statements, he said that, and I quote, that this was a modern love story.
Oh God.
And I said a couple of times.
Remember, he said, he's also the same one who made the baby oil comment. So are we stopped by anything he said?
Exactly right. Exactly right. And so, John, I said this on tour plenty of times. I said, thank God I wasn't the prosecuting attorney. Because I would have said, let's just, because Terry Garagos asked a question about bag versus respecting the space of the trial that went about sexual trauma. What if she got raped tonight in New York City, ladies and gentlemen?
Okay.
Just asking a question. Since, everything was consensual, how about we put them in a room at the 47 International Hotel and Tower, and let's put some transsexuals in there. Let's put some escorts in there, and then lock the damn door. Let's see how far we can take
what it do, as they say.
Exactly. And so I said this in a hypothetical, John. And I said to my audience, my guys, let me tell you what would have happened, right? And also too about Mark and Felio, if I would have brought. Would you want somebody to beat your daughter's ass? If God forbid something happened to
Diddy's love story, right? And he's rich, then apparently yes.
And that's the point, beautiful. So with all those points said, including what if this happened to Diddy's daughter? If I were the prosecuting attorney and said all that, this is what I said to my audience. I'm like, y'all, you know what would happen? First of all, it would be an eruption from the defense team on my ass.
Absolutely.
Diddy would be looking at me like, motherfucker, I know you just did not bring my daughters into this shit. And the judge,
it also speaks to what your own attorney thinks of you. I have been in cases where I have looked at the other side, and based on, and this is, especially Black people, when I'm representing a Black person or they're representing a Black person. And I've looked at them when they're being represented by a non-Black attorney. And again, it's not about, because to me, best attorney for the job is the best attorney for the job, right? But there has been times, and I'm in Virginia, so I'll tell you something. There are some times when I have looked at the person on the other side, and since you are not, you're against my person, so I ain't gonna save you. And I've looked at them and based on things that their attorneys have said, it has made me look at them and go, I wonder if this person recognizes in any way what the words that their attorney says really, let's call it what it is, microaggressions.
Yes.
What those words that their attorney said really says about what they think of you.
Absolutely.
About the microaggressions that your attorney's comment says about you. And in this case, what your attorney may say, what that says about what they think of Black men.
Yes.
Or Black people. or people of color if you weren't Black. Because on what planet is it okay for you to say that it's a modern love story?
Yes.
And again, this brings me to the culture. Oh my gosh, because there are so many instances, and I know you've seen them, and I know it's driven you crazy too, on where a lot of times when there are violent episodes, because again, this is where these white people get it from. So bring it back to Ignifilo in a minute. I've said his name 4 different times. I'm so sorry. I hate to mispronounce people's names.
It was hard for me too throughout the trial. So listen,
there are so many times that I have watched commentary or have even ended up, being crazy enough to bump my head and try to engage in commentary where people will see individuals commit violent acts, and even because of doing criminal defense, this also happens on a regular basis when I'm dealing court stuff, where again, like I said earlier, the culture is trained to view certain behaviors as normal because that's what we do.
Yes.
But then you get mad when people outside of us look at us and say, well, that's what they do.
Correct.
It's the same thing when you have people, and you see it even in everyday life. You'll see 2 individuals, it could be girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, they're tussling. In fact, we've actually had some recent cases in pop culture that have come up, like when you talk about Keke Palmer and the Bailey girl and a few other cases that have come up where individuals are tussling. And I deal with this damn near every day, or I did, especially when I was in juvenile and domestic relations court a lot back in the day. So lots of domestic assaults. And if it is literally anything short of someone breaking the skin or damn near beating someone's brains in, people have an issue with the fact that someone called the police. He was just trying to talk to her, or she was just trying to talk to him, or all he did was push her, or all she did was push him, or what have you. And there is this notion of acceptable behavior, an acceptable amount of violence, an acceptable amount of coercion, an acceptable amount of even a grape, because I know, again, YouTube, we got to be careful about what we call things. There's an acceptable amount of that depending on the circumstances. If you are in a relationship, is acceptable. There is an acceptable amount of yelling and screaming and pushing and shoving that if you call the police or you get a restraining order and whatever, the person who is the victim is then deemed to be the problematic one because they're trying to take them away from their family, their kids, their job, their this, their that. Or even in the case of assault of grape, there is an acceptable amount of that depending on what the person should have known about the situation that they were going into. And then when you point out and say, but isn't that blaming the victim? No, it's not. No, it's not, because you knew when you went to the Diddy party that this and that and the third was going to happen. You knew that if you stayed with him, whatever, there's no allowance for the fact that there is a bright line of right and wrong, or yes and no, that you need to stay on the sides of. There are all these shades of gray that are considered culturally acceptable. And again, that's where these things tend to fall apart in a case like the Diddy case. And it takes us back to the beginning of this conversation when I said that I think that despite the fact that the law is very clear on what sex trafficking means, oh, like you're saying, where we may get in trouble, the law is very clear on what that means, however stupid it may sound to some people, that I could see where the jury would still is going to struggle to come to a unanimous verdict. There are going to be, and you only need one, right? Your jury's got to be unanimous. You don't need half to say no. You just need somebody to stand their ground on it.
Right.
To get 12 regular ass people to convict a high-powered person with money and people admitting that he did pay them money if they perform. Remember, the one guy didn't get paid when he didn't.
Right.
It may be very difficult. So it's going to be interesting to see. I still do believe that there is a conviction among those 4 charges because
without question.
There's a conviction among those 4 charges. This is going to be very interesting to see what they are. And let me remind myself of
without question, the fact that they came back with a guilty for 2 through 5, but this
they didn't say guilty. They just said they have verdicts.
Right. Well, I'm just saying the fact that they came back with anything at all. You know what I mean? This early, it does goes to show that there is some agreement here that something did go down. Back to that example of if I ask those questions, what would happen then, y'all, is like I said, Terry Garagos will be pissed off at me. Mark Anfanello will be pissed off at me. Diddy will remember me forever. And his family would too. But the judge will be like, I need to see Attorney Lee in my chambers. What the fuck is your ass doing? Listen, first of all, I have been hired here to be the prosecution, right, on this case, because the burden of proof is on us. Now, when we talk about other people, Judge, people can give 2 fucks, dams, and issues about it. So I had to meet them right where they were. I'm not wishing hell on any of them. But let's just say if it were to happen to them, do you understand my point? Mr. Lee, I'm going to have you sit down for today because you have done too much with your mouth. But I will concede that I understand your point. Now, let's go back out here. Now, Attorney Lee will sit down for the rest of the day. We're not going to strike it from the record because everybody going to remember it. So use that at your discretion. And I am sure that Maureen Comey will have a lovely, calm, and engaging conversation with me. I'm saying that very sarcastically.
I mean, okay, you know what? Now I'm looking. Let me make sure because I see, because I did see somebody say, okay, so give me a second. 4 and 5. Yeah, so they didn't say, okay. Yeah, because people are saying guilty, but no, I knew that they didn't announce because they don't read it. They're not going to read a partial verdict aloud. Yeah, because if you read something, some people, well, no, it's not you, and because even when I Googled it, literally depending on the source, and some of them are reputable sources, I think that it's just it's just confusing the way that the information got out there. And again, this is what happens when you have a lot of people reporting this and wanting to be first as opposed to being right.
Okay, understood.
And we have a lot of that. I mean, and the internet is full of that, of course. But again, if you Google it, there are several sources that says the word guilty as opposed to verdict. And in the beginning, you did say verdict. You didn't say guilty. You just said it just now. You didn't misinform.
Right.
But no, I definitely, in looking at that, the reason why I was looking at it, by the way, was because I wanted to remind myself of which charges were which, to really, because when people tune in, they want to know, okay, do we what are the predictions, right? So the way that these counts are set up, so there's, as we know, there's 2 trafficking, those are 2 and 4, and transportation to engage in prostitution 3 and 5.
Correct.
So the trafficking is it says by force, fraud, or coercion. Again, I think that you and I beat that to death. I think they're going to have a hard time with those.
Yes.
Not to say that it's not possible. I just think they're going to have a hard time because as soon as someone admits to being paid, whether it was actual, like, here's 10,000, 2,000, whatever, or in this case, setting you up with a lifestyle, i.e., Jane Doe number 1 or whatever, the chick who was on the stand way too long. I think that it gives the jury a harder time. I think with R. Kelly, it was easier because number 1, there was serious questions about whether or not these girls were underage. As we know, there's been some allegations with Diddy, and I don't necessarily doubt it, because again, like some of these others that we've mentioned, if you mess with them at 19, then exactly, that's not a big leap. And of course, as we know, like his predecessor Russell, they love to make it very, very clear, creepily clear, a bit too clear. Marcus Houston did the same thing. That, oh no, yes, we've known each other since she was, like the whole Kimora Lee Simmons thing. Yes. He started coming to my shows and has known me since I was 16 or 17, but nothing happened until I was 18 or 19. Kylie Jenner and Tyga, same thing. So we see that all the time. So I don't think that anybody is out of line raising their eyebrow when it comes to the age thing. However, in the case of Diddy, they did not have specific allegations to that, whereas with R. Kelly, there were multiple allegations and individuals who flat out testified. And so when you talk about the force, fraud, or coercion with R. Kelly, it was a lot easier to get there, because when you're dealing with underage, the coercion is implied, and to a certain degree, so is the force. And especially since there were allegations of, them being bound and held in the house. And then also fraud, because with R. Kelly, not only were some of them underage, but them even being in his care, if you will, was under the guise of record deals and all of that. But I really think that if we're truly dissecting it and looking at the case as a whole, what really put the nail in his coffin, especially as it relates to the trafficking, was the fact that they were underage. Because and so of course, in the inverse, the fact that they were adults, and again, there was some type of financial compensation helps. So the by force thing, again, I think it depends on whether or not the jury was desensitized about Cassie because of the horrible testimony of the supposed friend and the super horrible testimony of the Jane Doe person. Because I think that if those two were not in the mix, maybe the friend, because although her testimony wasn't great as a regard in relation to herself, it still still supported Cassie's claims.
Yes.
And remember, they had the porn guy that also supported Cassie's claims.
Mhm.
But once you got the other girl up there, I think that actually not only was bad testimony as it relates to the jury believing anything in relation to her, but it was also bad testimony because it may have caused the jury to look at Cassie from the same lens as they looked at her. I think the jury probably looked at her as more of just a side chick / opportunist who at this point her bread's not potentially being buttered anymore and rent isn't being paid anymore, so screw it, I'll just go ahead and testify. And unfortunately, they kept her up there so long and got on the jury's nerves because everybody who was in the courtroom said that the jury was over it with her. And unfortunately, there are any juror who was looking for an excuse to ignore Cassie, that witness gave them that excuse because they're like, oh, well, Cassie was just like her. Screw them both. Because to me, the best case for sex trafficking by force is Cassie, but they have to actually view Cassie as having been trafficked, against her will, or that he forced her to do it because of the beatings. And I'm not sure if the jury is going to be willing to do that anymore. I think they might have been 3 weeks ago, but I don't know if they're going to be willing to do it now. So I think
I will say this to all of those points. I think that there are some people on the jury that are like me and you, that they have come to be an expert through circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to use what they know.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other side, they're going to be like us as well, of right is right and wrong is wrong. But bigger than that, what did you give in these legal finals? In the Law Basketball Association, the LBA. These were the LBA finals. We had 6 games in these finals. And the prosecution, they had a full team. Duncan.
Yeah, they did.
Now hang on. It's a metaphor. Follow me here. If you may, just follow me for a second. And the defense did not have one expert witness or anybody that wanted to defend Diddy. So when you're looking at these 6 games from the Law Basketball Association, and this was game 6, the fact that they had a team of witnesses to put up a defense and y'all didn't have no team, I could, as a juror, say, well, they played in the finals. The other team didn't. From a common sense point of view.
I agree with you from the standpoint of the jury, although I think they're betting on this jury. I think that Diddy's team is looking at this from 2 angles. One, I think that they believe that between both their cross-examination of the respective witnesses, as well as some of the witnesses who were just not good. Because I do think that witness they kept on there for a week gave them hope. I think that they are viewing it from the standpoint that, number one, they don't believe that the prosecution made their case. I think that they're watching the jury closely, and they feel, for different reasons than me, but I think that they probably are falling on the side of believing that no one's going to convict him of the sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion if the individuals that he allegedly did that with, that they're hanging their hat on for that, are Cassie, Jane Doe, number whatever, and I think the porn guy. So I don't think that they believe that anything is going to come of that. And most importantly, I think that ultimately they feel like they have established, and this case has been kind of messy. I think that they feel like they have established more than enough to prepare for an appeal. So I don't think that it was a matter of them not having potential witnesses or experts on retainer and ready to go. I think that they did. I think that ultimately, as you do during trial, they switched up their strategy and decided, you know what, at this point we're going to switch strategies to looking at what happens next. Either A, we get an acquittal, or B, we just focus all of our efforts on appeal. Trust me, that appeal memoranda is already ready to go. That 24 hours a day that these teams have been working, they've already got their associates preparing the appeal memoranda. So I think that that's why. I don't think that it was a matter of them not having anybody willing. I think that they literally just switched strategies and decided it wasn't worth it to continue to drag this situation out. Let's just end it, and hopefully our boy will be home on July 4th. And if not, then we're no better off than we already were, because if they were going to convict him, then they already did, and we'll just deal with it on appeal. I think they just said, why drag it out?
Right. No, from that standpoint, I fully agree with you that you to still use the Law Basketball Association. By the way, y'all, that's a metaphor. Okay, please.
Yeah.
Okay, please.
No, I agree with you. I actually agree with you, especially in terms of the jury looking at it going, what the hell? You mean now you're putting on nothing? I mean, what? I mean, so it's a risk. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm speaking as John the attorney, not John the juror. It's now from, if I'm just up there as the juror, it's definitely a risk, because, the juror ain't thinking about appeals and all this other kind of stuff. That's their strategy. A juror is looking at this like, okay, you are risking the fact that there may be jurors who go, well, he didn't even try to defend himself. I guess he did it.
Yep.
That is a risk, because again, you don't know these people.
Correct.
All you know about this juror is that this 12 people plus the 6 alternates were the ones who were either able to appear clueless enough or be very good liars in order to get on the jury.
Correct.
Because that's really what you're dealing with a jury, because you either want people who are a blank slate. I don't have an opinion. I haven't paid attention to this case, or I know about the case, but I don't have an opinion. I could still whatever. And then that's that can be dangerous, because then you're like, you ain't got no opinions about nothing. Like, are you an idiot? Or they're lying.
Yep.
And they just happen to lie good enough that they made it past peremptory challenges and got on the jury.
Right.
So you really don't know what you're getting with a jury. You know what you are hoping you are getting based on their profession and their age and their background, what little bit you're allowed to know about them, which is really not all that much. You can ask them some questions on voir dire, but you can't, you can only go but so deep. And again, you have the lie factor. There is at least one person, possibly 2, that we already know made it through the lie factor. Like anybody who going to act like they don't know whether or not they live in New York versus New Jersey, that they are a liar across the board who just wanted to
I'm just like, wow, really, bro? Is that what we're doing?
He wanted the opportunity because, again, we are in a whole different level of potential for making money and fame than we were with the OJ jurors. Because the OJ jurors, all they had was If they could figure out how to write a book, and a couple of interviews while the news people was still interested until the news cycle moved on. Whereas we're in 2025, they not only have those avenues until the cycle moves on, they have social media. They could just set up their own, they could just go on their own Instagram and talk about their experience every day and talk about, whatever. Not to mention all of the gazillion people on social media who will be clamoring to use that as an opportunity, use them as an opportunity to get some views and get their numbers up by interviewing them. They are in a world of different in terms of the possibilities of juries in the 90s and the 80s.
The diversification and the accessibility of how they make money is beyond comprehension. And
for somebody that was on this jury, it's like hitting the damn lottery, except that you stuck having to go and sit through the damn trial every day and not go to your job, especially if you care about your job. But for somebody who is like, you know what? I mean, I didn't want to really, you know what? I'm gonna take this as an opportunity to hit a lick. I may not be quitting my job, but hell, I gotta pay for whatever to go to college.
I'm gonna use these lemons that I got and this sugar, and I'm gonna make some lemonade out of it.
For sure.
And if you all remember when we were on Remixing Politics and Culture with Pam, I said, let me tell you something. Even though cameras and audio recording devices are not allowed in the courtroom, don't you think that the media don't know everybody who was in the courtroom every single day? Or pretty much
absolutely, because if you watch some of these content creators, there's a couple of jurors that they have even given nicknames to. Like apparently there's somebody that they call him Bertha. There's somebody they call the deli guy because he's a deli worker. These people know who they are. They're sitting there looking at them every day. Now, especially the ones who actually get into the courtroom.
Yes, and not to mention too, do not think for one damn second that ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox News, all the other outlets, do not think that there are not exclusive interviews getting set up with the jury and the alternate jurors and any content creator that was down there, especially if they were in the courtroom. Don't you think not for one second that the teams at all the national headquarters of these organizations have not been the background working? Just because they haven't said it to you doesn't mean that they haven't been doing the work. Believe me, I am waiting for a 2020 special with one of the jurors.
And 2020 is good for getting a little panel.
Yes.
I mean, we've seen it. But again, like you said, the diversification of the media. Now, they'd be stupid to turn down going on at least one mainstream media outlet, because because despite the fact that non-traditional media feels like they've taken over, there is still no substitute for the big four and getting on one of those main shows, because I have seen several content creators who are some of the main ones leading the charge of, we are non-traditional media and they're out there at the trial every day and whatever. And those same content creators are as geeked as a kid on Christmas that they have appeared on TMZ and ABC or all of these other shows too. So even though they may talk that stuff, they still get recognize the power and the legitimacy that it brings to them, even as content creators on alternative media, for them to show up on mainstream media. Because at the end of the day, folks 50 and up are still alive, and because of the world we live in terms of life expectancy is getting longer, they ain't going nowhere no time soon, and they not breaking their neck to come to YouTube to see you.
No, they're not. And that's the thing too. I think, and I'm gonna talk about this a little bit later on tonight, John, with the creator economy, because there was an article that came out from the Wrap, and they talked about the Cannes Film Festival, and I was like, well, wait a minute, how are content creators getting to the Cannes Film Festival? But then I got
way that they disastrously ended up on the Met Gala red carpet last year. You see Anna Wintour cut that crap out this year.
Exactly right. So when I saw that article, I'm like, you know what? There are content creators that are independent filmmakers, but then
for sure
about brands and then how they get into film. And so I'm gonna break that down later on tonight at 8:30. And the most interesting
ones who are brilliant at it really do, create networks and move on to whatever. But what may have, even some comedians, yes, they're out there and they're beating the pavement and whatever. But what will blow them up is, getting in them trenches to create content. I mean, look at the amazing things and doors that has opened up. And he's one of my faves for Kev on Stage.
Yes.
And him starting out with All Deaf and all of that. And yes, obviously, like, a lot of young comedians, he's beating the pavement and doing, getting out there, but that's not the big thing. You got to get that content.
Yes.
And he knows that, because despite having some wonderful deals that he has right now with, his show on BET and all that stuff, you still see Kev making them shorts.
Yes, you do. And I think that's the thing too, because I remember there was some YouTuber in an article saying that when you leave YouTube, your audience feels like you're disrespecting them because they believed in you when you weren't being seen. And so it's a delicate balancing act.
It is. You've got to do something, even if it is just shorts, or even if you are giving some behind the scenes or something, and I think that a lot of them are doing that, even if some of them are admitting. So I hope that some of them do kind of take care of themselves. I understand it, but that's this entitlement generation. You can't give everybody everything. See, I'm not of this generation, so I understand if you moving on to the next thing, then that's the next thing. But what social media has done is, in giving people access to you, it also they don't just feel like they have access to you, they feel like they are entitled to you.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing too, because when I first started this channel, Jonathan, I did not know who I was going to be, what I was going to do, how I was going to do it. But as the platform has grown, and we've done over 1,000 live tours or live
I
virtual.
love that you call it live tours.
Listen, because here's the thing, right? Brayley's virtual tour came about from Tosh.0 and ridiculousness. I'm like, okay, they got that for white people, but what do we have for black people? That's the thing about, like, I'm not.
Used to be my joint. It was funny. Ridiculousness. Yes. I was like, there's only but so many of these I can watch after a while.
Absolutely. And so I was thinking about
Tosh.0 I like because I liked him.
Yes. And so I was thinking about both of those guys. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not funny, but I am soulful. So what could I do in the vein of both of those two? I'm just like, well, 2020 happened and nobody was on tour. And then I thought about the virtual world of social media that we all live in, and, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, any new social media platform. Those are all continents. Then there are cities and states in all these different social media platforms, which are continents. And I'm like, what if I did a virtual tour going to the highest destinations that the culture is traveling to, and I'm their tour guide? And then that's how the show came to be. And so at first I'm like, okay, is this really going to work? But then when I have people in the chat saying we're live on tour, I'm like, okay, they got it. And so there's a guy named Pat McAfee that he licensed his show. So for me, with Brayley's virtual tour, making it do what it do on TV, I'm like, listen, this show started off on YouTube when I had nothing. So I will license the show to be on the E Network live from 6 to 8, but we're also simulcasting it on my channel from 6 to 8.
And I think a lot of people, what they've done, the balance is because, especially if you're going to try to make money with the content, is they've also utilized Patreon as well, because as we know, YouTube, especially, I mean, just in watching, I mean, I'm, still trying to grow. So I'm not to the point where some of these other folks are with monetization and all of that. But because I started out exclusively potting. So it's so, because that's something that's easier to do on the go as opposed to actually being able to sit down in front of the screen. And so I do follow, and there's certain content creators that I didn't just start following last week, that I've been, consistent with and for years, 10, 15 years. And so I've watched and learned the highs and lows of the games that YouTube plays, especially when it comes to content creators of color. Unless you're like some of these kids who are like in the millions, in the crazy numbers, but those ones that, you still have a good respectable following, but you're not one of these million bazillions where advertisers are coming to you, so YouTube kind of lets it ride. There's a lot of games that get played with monetization and constant rule changes and what have you. So I've definitely noticed more and more content creators having an additional stream, and especially podcasting, because the podcast space is so saturated that some podcasters are like, unless you get one of those deals, which don't happen to us, they a lot of them are struggling. So they have really tried to grow their Patreon space. I'm seeing more and more people adding the Patreon piece, but of course that is additional work and what have you, because if people are then subscribing to you monetarily, you can't slack on that. You have got to you have got to be consistent, because now they're paying you.
Right. No, correct. And
whether it's $2.99 or $5.99, I'm still paying.
No, correct. And I think that is the interesting.
I think it's great though.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's the biggest thing is with content creators, you don't know when you need to shift until you are in a space to be still, to know if you need to shift.
Yeah, and some hold on too long.
Yes. And so, for anybody that may say, well, Bray, why would you broadcast your show live on E and also stream it to your YouTube channel? I'm like, well, first of all, I start with YouTube for one. Number two, soon as the show is over, it's immediately available on YouTube. Number two, because it's on YouTube, it's also, fair use. Because I want to interview content creators like Jonda. I want to interview other content creators like Empire, Lovely T, and Tisha Tells, and many more. So if that content creator gets to use a clip from the show, then they don't get a strike. So then that goes back to my channel. Then that goes back to E. Then we stream it on E's YouTube channel. And so it usually takes somebody be like, oh, I got it. You're not abandoning your audience. You're expanding your audience, but still respecting your home base. Absolutely. Because at that point, you can't say that I'm not caring, because I'm simulcasting it on E and on my YouTube channel. So whether you can pay for E or not pay for E, if you want me, you got me.
Hey, and so and why should you do it if they're willing to sign the deal? So and I'm able to do it, I'm gonna do it.
Absolutely.
Or if they at least sign a deal that allows me to use some shorts. But either way, hell, why you worried about it? They the ones that got to agree to it. They're the ones whose bottom line could potentially be affected.
That part right there. And I also understand why some networks want that exclusivity, because it's a part of their, it's a part of their portfolio of content. But what I think content creators have to recognize is they have to recognize their power. Hey, listen, I got you want your linear portfolio to be good. But do you see how big YouTube is? If we can create a digital portfolio of your content at the same time as your linear content and showcase the accessibility and the diversification of how we reach people, you will always have a portfolio of content.
Exactly. But
you know what I mean?
I am going to have to wrap this up. I've got another meeting. I can't believe we've been on for this long, but that just shows we had too much to talk about.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. And we will get together
tomorrow. I do think either, and this is tricky, and I think this is what they are concerned about. I think this jury is tired. They're tired. I think that they were worn out probably by week 3, especially because things got real useless. There's also been so much disruption with constant motions and going in and going out and going in and going out. And then, of course, no consistency to their days because of the different ending times and all the drama with the media and all the kind of stuff. So I do think that juror fatigue could make them either tell the court we are hopelessly deadlocked, which I think in their own way they were trying to indicate to the court today. It's just that since it was only probably their 7th or 8th hour of deliberation, I can understand a judge saying, no, you need to go back because these are terribly complicated charges, particularly the one that they said that they are kind of messy on. And remember, they had the one juror who kind of made clear to them from the gate he wasn't going to follow the law one way or the other. So anyway, I think that all that being said, I would not be surprised if a verdict on the final charge is tomorrow. And if I had to guess, they may lean towards not guilty. I don't think that the prosecution wants a hung jury, which is why the Allen charge discussion is coming up. But I think there will be a verdict tomorrow. If there's a verdict tomorrow on the RICO, guys, not on everything. I do think there's some guilty verdicts in the mix of the rest of this, most likely on the transporting charges as opposed to the SMEX trafficking charge. But I think if a verdict comes in tomorrow, especially if it comes in early on that RICO, it's going to be not guilty, because you don't go from deadlock to guilty in a few hours or an hour or whatever, because apparently they sent them home right after everything that we read, because it was like 5 o'clock by the time the judge made the decision to send them back into deliberations. So they didn't deliberate anymore today. So when they get there tomorrow or whatever the case may be, and if the judge hasn't already recharged them today, recharge them in the morning as it relates to, you guys need to go back and deliberate. If we hear back from them before noon, then that RICO charge is not guilty, because it's just too complicated of a charge for them to be deadlocked and switch to a conviction that fast.
It's interesting because it's just like, usually, John, that I go live at 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. Those are usually my times. But I'm feeling like I think they're going to start at 9 a.m. I feel like I might have to do my regular schmegular show starting at 9.
I will be, I am going to be, I have to travel a little bit in the morning for court. So whatever happens between that 9 and 10 o'clock hour, but I'm sure everybody will be on the air first thing in the morning like they have been outside the courthouse. I'm going to, and then I'll be in the court briefly in my time in court in the morning. It's going to be somewhat somewhat brief, hopefully. So I anticipate being back in my car for another hour and a half ride home, because it's a jurisdiction that's out in the sticks a little bit, probably at around 10. So if you go on at 9, I'll come on and listen. But if you end up going on by your 11 o'clock show, then I'll be back in the office, and so I will hit you up. But if a verdict comes in, then I will definitely hit you up, because clearly we'll need to discuss it.
Yes. No, we'll make it do what it do. And I say that because with this being such an active destination,
it's like a little active volcano, isn't it?
Yeah. It calls for it. And that's one thing that I'm very blessed about our channel. And I say it's our channel because it takes a little bit of everybody to make this thing work. You know, I mean, that's when you know the assignment is bigger than you. Going live at 9, even though it's not my typical time, I'd rather do my 7 to 8 destinations during the 9 o'clock hour. So that way we are at least in the midst of what's going on in real time. So just in case.
There's going to be a lot of commentary tonight and tomorrow. There's going to be a lot of predictions for you to discuss in the morning for sure. I am still blown away that Jimmy Swaggart was still alive all this time.
Yeah, I did not know that either. That was
me either. Because I tell you, when it popped up on my feed today that he died, I thought, you know how sometimes you'll get these things pop up on your feed where somebody will post Sammy Davis Jr. Died today. Meanwhile, he died like 30 years ago. I honestly thought it was one of those things. I was like, what? So, but at any rate, thank you for the invitation and lovely discourse, and I look forward to touching base with you tomorrow. And I will make sure that, unlike today, I have my StreamYard set.
Oh, child, you listen. We made it work. You are fine.
Well, no, I was saying so that we can simulcast from both.
Oh yes,
channels
simulcast, absolutely.
Then we get more people involved in
absolutely, and blessings on safe travel support. And y'all, she has her own YouTube channel as well. Please go check it out. And like I said, this is why I do what I do. I was talking to a friend of mine today, and I said to him, like, this is the most that I've done on my channel. I've done like 10 shows a week since the Diddy trial.
You really have been. So I will, and once I have a chance later, I will go ahead and put my channel information into your comments.
Okay. No, sounds good. I will definitely pin it. And one of my friends on Clubhouse, they said, you could have been off on Thursdays. You just chose to do it. And I'm like, let me explain to you how I work. Even though I'm not making $20 million a year yet, I move like I make $20 million a year and understand the assignment. Exactly. There was no way that as culturally impactful, and I'd say culturally impactful, not for the world of culture itself, but as culturally impactful as we move on this channel, there was no way in hell I could not have my foot on the gas and not serve.
No, you had to. You absolutely had to. All right then. Well, good night. Bye, Braylon.
Much love to you, my friend. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Y'all, that is our show for this evening. 3 hours and 25 minutes. And now 3 hours, 26 minutes here. So what we're going to do is we're going to read the Daily Motivator because, like I said, tonight we're going to talk about the creator economy. Really looking forward to that conversation. Cannot wait to get into some good stuff with y'all there. Yes, Diddy. Here we go. 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 This was a good show. Very good show. I'm glad I went on at 4:30 because we would have been kind of close now to 8:30. So sometimes taking a swing works out, y'all. Yes, it does. As it pulls up for us here, the Daily Motivator. I recommend that the Statue of Liberty be supplemented by a statute of responsibility on the West Coast. Victor Frankl said, very nice. nice. Very nice. Very nice. It's time for the day motivator. Ooh, okay. I gotta read this one on camera, child, because Lord Jesus, this one might be for the people in the back. Yes, indeed. That was a great show. I'm glad John was able to come through and give us that legal perspective. And I think it relates to our daily motivator right here. Let me come on camera here. Hello. Here we go, everybody. Here we go. It's time for the Daily Motivator Ride for Tuesday, July 1st, 2025. Genuine kindness. The most profound way to benefit from kindness is offering it to others. Being truly kind to yourself comes from being kind to someone else. Many will appreciate you, yet some people won't and don't even appear to deserve your kindness. Especially when they don't show it back their damn self. Moving on. If it doesn't apply, let fly. But if you let fly, it must apply. Nonetheless, you deserve the experience of giving it. Some people will never repay your kindness, but that's okay because you've already been richly rewarded. If you withhold your kindness as some sort of punishment, you're the one that ends up getting punished. Don't let yourself make that mistake. Being kind doesn't mean letting anyone take advantage of you. That's dishonesty and coercion, not kindness, and it doesn't have to be either party. Genuine kindness, on the other hand, brings benefit to all who engage in it. Give kindness and give your best. Ralph Morrison. I think we talked about that tonight with, this show. We have been on the Diddy trial from the jump. As you all know, I've been using the courtroom sketches for the thumbnails. And shout out to all the courtroom sketch artists that have been doing a masterful job. I think in being kind to the space we're in, the first thing about being kind is you have to recognize the room. You have to recognize the room. You have to recognize the room. Just like when Marco Aurelio says a modern love story. If you recognize the room, you recognize that most love stories should not accept abuse of the kind. So the first thing about here, genuine kindness, is what you give determines how you give determines by what you consume. If you consume kindness, you're gonna give out kindness. If you consume hatefulness, you're gonna give out hatefulness. The second thing I'll say is, just because you're broken doesn't mean that everybody else is broken. Just because you are broken doesn't mean everyone else is broken. Just because you're broken doesn't mean everyone else is broken. Because for some odd reason, the people that like to say that everybody else wants to be them, this, that, and the third, here's the gag, child. Most people could give two fucks about your existence. And when you are so downtrodden about being concerned about other people, you know what that goes to show? You ain't got shit going on for you. Because some of y'all are closer to the grave to die than the cradle to start living life. I'm going to say that again. Some of y'all are closer to the grave to die than the cradle to start life. Some of y'all are closer to die. Some of y'all are close to the grave to die, rather, than the cradle to start life. I'm just keeping it a buck. So if you have more behind you than in front of you, you do realize the more energy you put on others, you do realize that depletes your energy, right? In the words of Iyanla Vanzant, your behavior diminishes your message. Your behavior diminishes your message. Your behavior diminishes your message. That's the second thing I'll tell you. And finally, when it comes to genuine kindness, I really do believe, in the words of Don Martin Luther King Jr., it's not by the color of our skin, but it's by the content of our character. Some content has been portrayed to be big, bad, and bold, when really they're small, weak and spineless. Be careful of people who dress themselves up to look good, but yet when you get around their soul, you're more grateful to be away from them than to be around them. And with that being said, everybody, it's time for the best outro on YouTube. Know what you do and do what you know. Never say you weren't born special, because you were always born blessed and trust. You may not be where you want to be, but by the end of it, you'll be where you need to be. Do what you've been chosen to do. Wise one thing to call yourself is nothing to be chosen. One love, much love, all love. I have spent time with you. I have spent time with you. You have spent time with me. Hopefully, I spend time together. Ross, be great together. And always remember, we're doing radio, television, YouTube, live your best life, or just recognizing that, hey, listen, when, how can I put it? Sometimes being a bad boy has grown man consequences. Make sure the replay is not just right for you to watch it, not just right for you to listen to it, but for you want the spirit to say again, I love you, I value you, I embrace you all. Always remember, or receive love, you gotta give it, or receive love, you gotta give it, or receive love, you gotta give it. Where obstacles you've overcome, where success you have achieved upon this particular day. I'm extremely proud of you, but no one's proud of you, be proud of your damn self. And finally, y'all, we may get a verdict, and I've been thinking this. I think we might get a verdict Wednesday or Thursday. Just know this, y'all, right? Because, like I said, there was a lot of new channels that popped up during the day trial. There's a lot of people that dug in hard because they are one trick pony at the state fair. They ain't got no other content. There are some people that are behind on topics, even though they say they're a content creator. But just know this. The true definition of a content creator is not by how much you talk about it, but it's how much you be about it, right? There's a lot of people that talk because they feel the more that they talk, the more it sounds true. But here's the gag about talking. Eventually, you have to prove something. And if you ain't proving shit know-how, haven't been proving shit, and never gonna prove shit, is your talk shit? Maybe it always was shit. That's because you are shit. And with that being said, everybody, commercial break and fireworks coming your way for the day that was, for the day is, for the day that's come, for the blessings the only way for you, me, all of us, as a society, as people, as a culture. I feel the love, and I send it right back to you. And always remember, in the words of Anonymous T.
Because here's the thing, a good streamer can find other content. Because here's the thing, a good streamer can find other content.
One more time.
Because here's the thing, a good streamer can find other content.
One more time.
Because here's the thing, a good streamer can find other content.
If this is your final tour for the evening, good evening to you. Good morning, good afternoon to you. If not, I'll see you back here at 8:30 for the career economy conversation. We're going to have a good time with that. Love y'all. Good night.
I thought I should tell you, they've been talking about you. Yeah, they've been talking about you. They've been talking about the fact that they've done everything they could to stop you and everything they could to block you, but you still win. They've been talking about the fact that they have undermined your success and they have tried to sabotage your seasons, but you keep winning. They've been talking about the fact that even though they don't like each other, they get together to try to kill you, but you keep winning. They've been talking about the fact that you were voted least likely to succeed, but like cream, you keep rising to the top. They've been talking about how they tried to burn your world down, but like the phoenix, you rose from the ashes. They've been talking about you. And you know what they say? Oh, she's just lucky. He's just lucky. But no, you ain't lucky. You're anointed. You got something on you. You got favor on you. You got power on you. You were born to win. Now, they can call it luck, but it's grace. They can call it luck, but it's favor. But whatever they call it, it doesn't matter, because you know what God calls you? Do you know what God calls you? A winner. I thought I should tell you, they've been talking about you. Yeah, they've been talking about you. They've been talking about the fact that they've done everything they could to stop you and everything they could to block you, but you still win. They've been talking about the fact that they have undermined your success and they have tried to sabotage your seasons, but you keep winning. They've been talking about the fact that even though they don't like each other, they get together to try to kill you, but you keep winning. They've been talking about the fact that you were voted least likely to succeed, but like cream, you keep rising to the top. They've been talking about how they tried to burn your world down, but like the phoenix, you rose from the ashes. They've been talking about you. And you know what they say? Oh, she's just lucky. He's just lucky. But no, you ain't lucky. You're anointed. You got something on you. You got favor on you. You got power on you. You were born to win. Now, they can call it luck, but it's grace. They can call it luck, but it's favor. But whatever they call it, it doesn't matter, because you know what God calls you? Do you know what God calls you? A winner. I thought I should tell you, they've been talking about you. Yeah, they've been talking about you. They've been talking about the fact that they've done everything they could to stop you and everything they could to block you, but you still win. They've been talking about the fact that they have undermined your success and they have tried to sabotage your seasons, but you keep winning. They've been talking about the fact that even though they don't like each other, they get together to try to kill you, but you keep winning. They've been talking about the fact that you were voted least likely to succeed, but like cream, you keep rising to the top. They've been talking about how they tried to burn your world down, but like the phoenix, you rose from the ashes. They've been talking about you. And you know what they say? Oh, she's just lucky. He's just lucky. But no, you ain't lucky. You're anointed. You got something on you. You got favor on you. You got power on you. You were born to win. Now, they can call it luck, but it's grace. They can call it luck, but it's favor. But whatever they call it, it doesn't matter, because you know what God calls you? Do you know what God calls you? A winner. I thought I should tell you, they've been talking about you. Yeah, they've been talking about you. They've been talking about the fact that they've done everything they could to stop you and everything they could to block you, but you still win. They've been talking about the fact that they have undermined your success and they have tried to sabotage your seasons, but you keep winning. They've been talking about the fact that even though they don't like each other, they get together to try to kill you, but you keep winning. They've been talking about the fact that you were voted least likely to succeed, but like cream, you keep rising to the top. They've been talking about how they tried to burn your world down, but like the phoenix, you rose from the ashes. They've been talking about you. And you know what they say? Oh, she's just lucky. He's just lucky.
We're good.
No, you ain't lucky. You're anointed. You got something on you. You got favor on you. You got power on you. You were born to win. Now, they can call it luck, but it's grace. They can call it luck, but it's favor. But whatever they call it, it doesn't matter, because you know what God calls you? Do you know what God calls you? A winner.
Prepare for a journey beyond imagination, beyond belief, beyond anything you've experienced before. Universal Epic Universe, a new theme park where you'll step through extraordinary portals to 5 immersive worlds. Prepare for a cosmic voyage of discovery, an isle of fire-breathing excitement, a shadowy world of monsters and mystery, new wonders in the wizarding world, and a new way to play. Plus the splendor of a magnificent resort hotel overlooking the park. It's all new excitement at Universal Orlando Resort. A week's worth of vacation thrills with 4 amazing theme parks, a variety of spectacular themed hotels, and incredible dining and entertainment. It's all at Universal Orlando Resort, where you'll find new adventures every day. Explore the astonishing worlds of Universal Epic Universe at Universal Orlando Resort.
Because here's the thing, a good streamer can find other content. Because